it is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s.
It happened before the election because there are too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoings are going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the
With
lies.
rules for Thanksgiving, who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out?
Hey y'all, it's Savannah from The Savvy Truth with Right America Media. I'm just here to remind all of you that we are partnered with MyPillow and Mike Lindell. So, if you guys are looking for some fabulous sheets, towels, blankets, dog beds, or just in general some made in America, sold in America, produced in America products, please go check them out. And don't forget to use our phone number and our special code RAM, capital R, capital A, capital M. So please go check them out and support us by using our phone number and our code.
I'm Danny Wash Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
I am a raging patriot.
Y'all Asians got it good though. The police don't mess with y'all like they do with us. Know what I'm saying? Convenient that you leave out the part about statistically what percentage of the violent crime is coming from Asians. Before and after adjusting for population. Man, you geniuses are really destroying the stereotypes here. I can tell that you guys are on your way to becoming doctors and scientists and shit.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, we're here. Welcome to KSok Uncensored. That is my guest for today that I've been telling y'all about. I'm very excited. We will have the Korean conservative coming on here shortly. And oh my gosh, you guys, you are in for a treat. But not only is he funny, he has so many layers that we're going to peel back today. And I'm going to be learning a thing or two also. Very excited. So thank you for tuning in. I want to share something that happened to me this weekend. Actually, you know what? It feels like this weekend. It was just yesterday. I went to the beach for one day, one night situation. And we're on the beach, having a bonfire, putting off some fireworks. People down by the coastline were putting off way larger fireworks than us. And everyone's enjoying it. It felt like really American. It was just fun. I met a few people on the beach because I forgot my matches. Anyways, long story short, about 15 minutes into the festivities, I see this SUV just speeding down the beach. And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't like, you're not supposed to drive on this particular beach. So I was like watching closely, no lights or sirens. They drive right up to the folks that were lighting off the big ones at the shoreline, and they ticketed all of them. They took all their fireworks. It was a police officer at the beach. And me being the common sense individual that I am, I can't stand malarkey like that. There are so many bigger things that they should be putting their energy into. So of course I was yelling, "You suck." My husband actually finds that comical because I'm not married to a law enforcement officer that would ever do something as asinine as that. But it started making me think about the way that officer acted is like so many on the left are acting today. It's there's bonfires, permitted bonfires all over the beach. But yet you're going to speed on a crowded beach of people in the dark over to the people lighting off bigger ones because it's not permitted. Okay, why is it not permitted? Because it's been dry in the Northwest because we are under a heat dome. Okay, you have the ocean right there. There's sand that at worst is going to turn into glass. So it's just so frustrating. The overreaction made by that law enforcement officer just frustrated the hell out of me, because I can't help but think about that. That's the way that the left is approaching, and so many people, even on the right or in the center, are approaching things today. The extreme, and it just becomes exhausting. Hey, Julius. So yeah, it was one of those things. I'm like, what a lame police officer. Can I run away with you? That's funny. Where you want to go? I was kidding. I'm always down for an adventure, but yeah. But anyways, that was fun. I ended up meeting somebody from Idaho on the beach, and the person I borrowed matches from, hey, Bruno, and it happens to be from Idaho. I think you guys know what happened next. We ended up talking politics for about 45 minutes. My mom got irritated with me because I left her with the kids as I talked politics with an Idahoan and drank a Pabst Blue Ribbon. But it is what it is, right? That's just me. I said, I don't get out much. I can't help myself. I don't see many people that aren't my kids or my husband or my parents these days. But that was a good time. So just wanted to say hello, do a little intro here. I want to bring the Korean conservative in right now. We have a lot to cover. Come on in, my friend. All right, he's here. I'm so excited. I have to tell you guys. Okay. I asked the Korean conservative. Now, I don't know if I actually didn't ask you if you want me to say your name. So I'm not going to. I'm just going to stick with the Korean conservative. But I asked him to be. What was that?
Generally, everybody shortens it to TKC. Like, it's just shorter to say TKC.
All right. I'm going to do that. TKC. All right. Doesn't roll off my tongue, but I'm going to try. So I asked TKC to be my political husband because I am so obsessed. I truly did. I did it on Instagram. We had never talked before. Tagged him in one of my Facebook or Instagram stories, and with the little ring, was like, "Will you be my political husband?" He said yes, and the rest is history. But I am so obsessed with what he does, because he puts out you put out such great content that not only does it resonate with so many patriots, but and you've even said this yourself, you're saying what maybe white folks such as myself can't necessarily get away with saying. And you're spitting the truth constantly. So I'm fangirling a bit, that's for sure. So happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, before we get started, let's roll video 2.
To that one type from that one demographic, do you know why people, including comedians, are afraid to make black jokes but not Asian jokes? It's not out of respect. It's fear of retaliation. What kind? Violence, riots, looting, arson, vandalism. Why do you think they would have that fear? Did that fear originate out of nowhere? You should be way more embarrassed than offended that people have this fear of you and then pander and tiptoe around you because of it, instead of being embarrassed and offended at jokes. Ask yourself, do you really think people and comedians are afraid of violent retaliation from Asians? If not, why not? Fix your culture.
Amen. Right?
Yes.
So, okay, let's dive in. I want to, so you're in California. Are you born and raised Californian?
No, so technically I was born in Seoul, South Korea, but then I came here when I was 10 months old. But ever since coming here 10 months old, I've been a Southern Californian since, yes. Except when I went to college for 5 years up north at UC Davis. So aside from that.
Nice. All right. West Coast native, just like me. You're in talk about a deep blue state conservative, right?
Yeah.
You're in it. Okay. So I'll jump to that. What is it like being a deep blue state conservative?
Well, I have to watch my back more. Literally I have to watch my back more. If I'm wearing anything, so for example, this shirt here, it says stand for the American flag. This shirt is enough for people to glare at you here in Los Angeles, where I'm at. It's enough for people to glare at you. It's enough for people to, when I say watch my back, it's for things like when I go to a restaurant or a food truck or even a Starbucks or a coffee place. Like, I absolutely try to see what they do to my food, because I'm also not gonna wear like non-patriotic clothing out of fear. Like I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not built that way. Anybody who follows me knows that I'm not built that way. So I have to watch my back more. There are some, there is a fear of being recognized by the wrong person on the street due to the size of my account, and then them, potentially attacking me. Although the thing is, when it comes to leftists, they usually don't. When it's one-on-one, they only attack I've noticed they've only attacked the elderly, women, or like the really, really obese guys, or the really, really like skinny, like small, total beta male looking guys. If they're not in a group, if they're not in a mob, like a bunch of fucking hyenas, rarely do they go one-on-one against a man who looks even relatively capable of handling himself. And you haven't met me in person, so maybe you can't tell, but I'm not built I'm not built like someone you can just slap around.
Right. No, I think you're spot on, because I think about here in Portland, Antifa. Yeah, you rarely will see them in videos one-on-one. Like you said, the hyenas, that's what they are, literally. And without each other, they're nothing, because they are just, have you seen the arrest pictures when they actually do get arrested in Portland, which is not often enough? They are such, like you said, the beta male, they're like skinny, and they look unhealthy and malnourished. And one-on-one, I'm like, really? But yeah, they get together and it's disgusting. So I completely understand what you're saying. And I know what you're saying with the food situation, because it's almost like a law enforcement officer, because I know, like, my husband, the only place he will eat is a Subway, where he can, when he's on duty, where he can watch them make the entire sandwich. He will not order anything anywhere where it's being made out of his line of sight. It's so unfortunate, but it's the reality for many of us. And I don't have an account your size, but I do often get, and I wonder if it's in my head a bit, but I feel like I get the side eye at like the grocery store and whatnot, kind of like, oh, that's that chick. Because I'm all liberals.
I get recognized by fellow conservatives, like randomly on the street, even if it's not at a patriotic event. Like I'll get, like, on on July 4th, I literally, so this is just the most recent one. This happens more often than you would think, and which is, to me, like, it's shocking because I'm such a nobody. But on July 4th, I didn't want to drink that night because I wanted to be sharp, right? Like, I wanted to keep my other friends safe. They were getting wasted. So I went to a liquor store nearby to get canned coffee. I know that's so dorky, like, I get it, but I got canned coffee for myself. And then walking back, I met eyes with these two like Filipino looking chicks. Like, I think one of them might have been Vietnamese, but then I didn't think anything of it. I just, I didn't even think they were like hot or whatever. I just looked at them. We just caught eyes. That happens, And then all of a sudden, from behind me, the one of the girls goes, "Oh my, hey you, are you the Korean conservative?" And then I turn around, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. And then she's like, "Dude, I've been following you like since the beginning." I'm like, "Thank you." But there's a flip side to that coin. If random people can recognize me, but they're conservatives, it stands to reason that liberals in the same state, in the same cities, will also recognize me, and maybe just not say anything about it, because, again, like, unless they're in a group, what the fuck are they going to do, right? So,
right.
But it does stand to reason that I've already gotten noticed by liberals or maybe like BLM people around here, but they're usually alone. They're not going to do anything about it. By the way, this is coming from a guy who I have 3 different MAGA hats. I wear them everywhere, like when I'm doing groceries, when I'm doing, and like, it's almost like I'm like waiting. To this day, nothing has ever. They glare at me. They might talk shit, but nobody's ever actually tried to do anything. The one time it came close. Okay, the one time it came close to that was this. Like, again, like, I hate to make fun of a guy's size, because you can still be a man, like, despite not being a big. I'm just noticing a pattern here. This, like, skinny, at a maximum of what, 5'6", like this skinny little cholo. I'm not just saying that because he was Latino. He was literally like a cholo. I'm walking to my car with my groceries, and then he goes, "Hey, fuck MAGA fool! I'm gonna fuck you up." So then obviously I turn around, and and by the way, again, I'm not making fun of anybody with disabilities here. I'm just stating what I observed. Not only was he skinny and short, he also had quite literally had a hunchback. Like he literally had like a hunchback, right?
Right.
So he's threatening me, and then I go, "You're not going to do shit about it." Like, let's be like I said, like you're not going to do shit about it. And he said, and then he says, "I'm gonna stab you, fool." I'm like, that's when I got.
Oh my God.
So then I drop my groceries and I start running toward him before he can get the knife out, right, and flick it out. Like the speed and timing is of the essence here. And then as soon as, I guess he expected me to run away when he said he had a knife, but I called his bluff. You can tell by the way a guy's shirt is tucked or whatever, like whether you really have anything or the way you're walking. So I called his bluff and I fucking just ran after him, right, from across the parking lot. Lo and behold, he gets in his car, drives off, and gives me the finger as he's driving away. Like that's the closest it's come to an altercation.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy though. Yeah, no. And you know what? If I didn't look like balls in my MAGA hat, I would be wearing it out. I swear that thing's massive. It's like 2 times the size of my head, but good for you. And it's just crazy. Dan popped up earlier. He said, didn't Trump really win California? What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that so that's kind of a stretch, but I believe at the very least, California is not as blue as they say. I think it's purple. And the reason why I know this is because at the height of the Beverly Hills Trump rallies, which coincided with the Huntington Beach Trump rallies that were going on before the election, there were quite literally hundreds and or thousands of people gathered, Californians, to root for Trump. It was a Trump rally without Trump or Southerners there. It was a Trump rally. It was, I can't even begin to describe to you, like, okay, Halloween of last year, it fell on a Saturday, which was the day that we got together at a certain location of Beverly Hills to rally for Trump. I kid you not, there was at least 2,000 people there in this one area. We had vendors there selling MAGA merch. We had a whole bunch of stuff. Nice. So that surprised a lot of people. That especially shocked a lot of liberals in Los Angeles. So Huntington Beach is pretty red, so nobody got surprised there. But in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, the fact that this many MAGA supporters came out in the open, that's when a lot of liberals started rethinking how they talk around people they don't know. Because they didn't know that it could get to this size in Beverly. In the middle of Los Angeles, nobody knew it could get to that size. The downside is that it made the liberals of Los Angeles way more like divisive. So like it shocked them, but it also made them like more angry when they got together in groups, right? BLM, Antifa, all those people got them more angry. But again, like, okay, unless you're in a group, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Eat your soy burrito in front of me? Fuck you.
Well, you know, I've been following the MAGA Hulk, and I believe he was in Beverly Hills. He moved. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it looked amazing. I was like, there is something happening here. This is a true movement. Dan says you swear like me. It's true. In my recent videos, I haven't been filtering as much. What does he think of Trump and what he did with North Korea? That's for you.
I owe Trump a debt of gratitude for that, and I'll tell you why. Because my entire extended family is out of the entire like list of people from South Korea. The only people in America are me, my mom, my little sister. My dad is well, I mean, I honestly don't know where my dad is. He left when I was 14. To this day, I still don't know where he is. Oh, look, I'm black. And then so we're the only ones in America, and so I do have my entire rest of my bloodline back in South Korea. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but it's South Korean males have a mandatory once they turn 15 or 16, they have a mandatory military service of 2 years. It's mandatory because technically we've been Yeah, we've been at war with North Korea for a couple decades now. It's just nobody's ever made a move because both sides are too scared to like do anything about it because we both have like nukes, right? But you know, like it is mandatory because we're technically still at war, and the only reason why that's there is because we had bad relationship with North Korea. Trump came in and facilitated, even though it's temporary, facilitated a unprecedented peace between those two nations, right? So, and by the way, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the South Korean president himself gave Trump credit for that, for facilitating that. So when I tell you that Trump is directly responsible for keeping my entire extended family safe in South Korea, that's not an exaggeration of any sort, right?
Wow.
So yeah, I owe him a debt of gratitude. That's just one of many reasons why I went red.
That brings me to, let's talk about your background. Like, you were very different in, should I say, high school, college age.
Yeah.
I would love for you to tell the audience and myself, because I only know a little bit, about where you came from.
Okay. So, in high school, I wasn't, okay, so it's weird, because even in high school, there's no other country, not even South Korea. Granted, if my mom stayed in South Korea, like, her family would have helped her out after my dad left, but for the most part, the culture and business world of South Korea is not built to adequately support and encourage single mothers. It's just not. There is no other country I can think of. Well, I mean, to be fair, even metrically speaking, there's no other country that would have given my mom, me, and a single mother of two, plus me and my little sister. There's no other country that would have given us the chance to succeed the way that America has. And I think as an actual immigrant who had to see up close what an immigrant parent with an English language has to go through to try to make it in this country, like, I think there always was a part of me that was patriotic, right? Because I was in eighth grade when September 11 happened. I watched it I watched it, right? And even then, I remember getting very, very, very angry, to the point where I was confused as to why. So I always think I was patriotic to an extent. I remember how much it meant to me as an eighth grader, because my US history teacher came in the next day weeping, and then finally she said something I'll never forget. She said, if those bastards want to go to war, they can come get it, right? Or she said something like, we'll go get it. And she was crying, and I remember everybody else in my class was like, oh, I can't believe she's okay with war. And I was the only one in the class that was like, fuck yeah, right?
Right.
And by the way, years later, I find out she's actually a diehard Republican. Big surprise there, right? Because she was patriotic, unlike the other teachers of that high school. Nobody else was taking it the way she was taking it, and now I know why. A Republican U.S. history teacher with respect for our history and legacy, yeah, I get it. What ended up happening, though, was I ended up going to a very, 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 very college. You see, only 1 hour away from Berkeley, so there's a trickle-down effect of liberalism, and I got indoctrinated. And I was lazy and stupid, and I was like a kid, like a teenager going into my early 20s, and I loved the idea of getting free stuff and getting free empathy based on victim mentality. Like, I'm a victim, I'm a person of color, I'm a person of color. And I'll get back to that point of me being a person of color later, but yeah, I love the idea of like social justice, right? And sticking it to the white man or white woman. And it's like weird, like even in retrospect, it's weird how much I like hated white people when the majority of the girls I was hooking up with and or dating and or in a relationship with in college were like white women. So if this is the best white supremacy ever, right? So it's like yeah, so it's I got indoctrinated, and in college I used to be a diehard liberal atheist protest march leader. I didn't just join protests.
Wow.
I to lead them because I'm relatively articulate. I'm like, so what you see the young people today wearing, the black masks, black gloves, all black for when they're like rioting and looting. My generation, so I was in college more than 10 years ago. My generation of protesters set that clothing, dress code. We're the ones that said it. I sent you a picture long ago of me in a black mask, black gloves, hoodie draped over, leading a march. That's me in college. And don't get me wrong though, back then it would never conceive to us to get to a point of looting, rioting, and arson. It would never, we never went anywhere near that, but we did set certain standards for today's Antifa and BLM. And then how I became a conservative, such like a 180 turnaround is, first of all, statistically speaking, people who identified as liberal socialists as in their youth, a lot of them, I think 40% of them end up going conservative, at least, even at the very least, they go fiscally conservative when they start making their own money and going up the job ladder, and they start to understand the DNA, the concept of you get what you put in, which is the opposite of what liberals want to do. They just want everything for free. So when they start having certain degrees of adult responsibility, like salaries, taking care of a family unit, things like that, like mortgages, houses, like saving up for children in the future, like things like that, it turns them naturally more conservative. So for me, it was kind of like that too. Like the more I went up the corporate ladder, I ended up becoming more conservative. When I started seeing people like looting, rioting, or protesting for like $15 an hour, I looked at them, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you know how much, do you know what I had to do for $15 an hour? Like, I'm lucky I didn't sell my ass on the street, you know what I'm saying? So, and believe me, I could have made a pretty penny. I mean, look at me, you know what I'm saying? So fucking stupid. Yeah. And then, and also going back to this concept of me being a person of color, like the more I tried to stick with certain liberal policies, I understood that the Democrats and liberals don't give a fuck about Asians because we don't fit their victim narrative. So they never care about policies that affect us. They only care about blacks and Latinos, lesbians, whatever, right? Muslims. But when it comes to Asians, I noticed that, like, for example, affirmative action, it disproportionately affects our entry scores because it's not based on merit anymore, but they don't care. They don't care because they want to give a chance to everybody else except for us because we're not people of color enough for them. And that's when I started, that was one of the first things that made me realize, like, oh, what? That's funny. Like, I thought I was one of you guys. I marched for you guys, and apparently I'm still not worth it to give a second look at. And then that's when I started, it's like that.
Yeah. Wait, so didn't you tell me the other day, and this was an aha for me because I had never heard this term, but that Asians are considered white adjacent?
Yeah.
And
so
is that what they're teaching in school right now? Is that in the critical race theory handbook?
Yes. So according to critical race theory, Asians are white adjacent due to our success levels. And the reason why they consider us white adjacent is because critical race theory asserts that if you come from being industrious, being punctual, being merit-based, being a part of adhering to certain levels of hierarchy, etc., things like that, that is Eurocentric ideals, which is fucking racist to say. Like, for you to think that you're the... And so because Asians come from a similar culture where we hold those things in high regard, and nuclear family. So when we hold those things in high regard, they go, oh, well, then you're not actually a person of color. You're more white than you are a person of color. So white adjacent, that is a real term in critical race theory that says Asians are not people of color. But then it's funny, when a white guy goes on a massacre spree at a spa in, I forgot where it was, Atlanta, I think what it was, like recently, when he does that, when a white guy affects us because they want to capitalize on our emotions, then all of a sudden liberals are like, oh, you poor people of color, we can help you. Sorry, but you fucked up, liberals. You forgot that the internet was a thing, and more Asians who were on the fence politically or didn't care, we're starting to see that you don't care about us until it fits your narrative. Because prior to this event, all of a sudden, we were white adjacent. right? Which is why you justified discrimination against Asians in college applications, which is why you justified discrimination against Asians in the job market, especially in tech, right? Which is why you discriminated against Asians when it comes to the movie industry, right? So even with the movie industry,
huge.
Even in the movie industry, currently blacks are 13% of the U.S. population, right? And the Democrats have always relied on the majority of the black vote to keep staying in power. If the roles were reversed and Asians were 13% of the population as opposed to the 5% we are now, and we made up a large enough voting bloc, I'm pretty sure we'd be seeing more Asians on the screen than we would be black Americans. But the reason why they keep putting out all black movies, black-centric movies, things like that is because the reason why they swap the races of certain superheroes from white to black but never to Asian is because they want to pander to the black vote. You'll never see that with Asians because we don't make up a voting bloc yet. So when it's all about pandering and demographic shifts, and noticing the movie industry is also what helped me to readjust, realign, and rethink what I thought about liberals in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, no, that's like crazy. You really do think about that. And it's like, you really, if someone, everyone watching, like reflect on the small amount of Asians that we see in Hollywood today. I mean, it really is alarming what they're doing. And what you're saying is spot on. I mean, they used the Asian community with the Stop Asian Hate campaign. It's just so disgusting. And it's good to hear from you that the majority of folks that were on the fence that are Asian were like, wait, we're being pandered to. We're being used yet again to drive a narrative, a gun control narrative, white supremacy narrative. So yeah, I can't even, it's just so disgusting. What I want to do, I want to play your third video here. Juan, can we play the third bit that we have here?
Culture shapes families, families shape values, and values inform your personal decisions later on as an adult. If the cultural foundation is shaky, then everything else becomes crooked. The results speak for themselves. East Asians and Jews have very similar traditional cultures in terms of families, values, and priorities. And we're statistically the two most prosperous groups in white supremacist America. Do you see a lot of video footage of us looting and rioting and burning out there? No, because we do our homework, go to our accounting jobs, come home to get yelled at by a wife and children that we didn't abandon, and then at the end of the day, we just count our gold.
You know what my favorite part of your videos is when you like laugh at the end. Oh my God, I love it. I think that's why I like you so much too, is because it's funny. It's like you're so serious, and at the very end you get to see a glimpse into your personality. So funny.
Well, okay, so those laughs aren't planned because generally when I record these, it's actually when I'm recording it, it's the first time I'm hearing myself say it. So it hits differently when I construct these things in my head or I write it down. I don't write the whole script. It's like it's an outline, and I fill in the rest with my just off the cuff. But I have an idea of what's going to be said, but I don't actually say it out loud. And then when I say it, it's so stupid. So
it's probably like so shocking to hear it, and then you're like, you've cracked yourself up at that point. No, I love that. You can tell it's not a forced laugh. It's because you don't do it every time, but that's like when I saw that, that's why I'm like, I need to ask him to be my political husband because I'm like obsessed.
I mean, but it's the visual imagery of this Asian guy, this Asian father and accountant, and a Jewish father and accountant going back home in a modern world where this is no longer used anymore, and literally sitting there counting their gold coins. Like the imagery of that, I was like, that's so fucking stupid as I was saying it out loud.
That's hysterical. Well, I love it. And it drives the point across. I mean, come on, it makes complete sense. Oh man. All right. I want to talk about dating in the Los Angeles area as an Asian conservative. I mean, let alone a conservative, but what's it like? Tell me.
Okay, so let me give you a frame of reference for some of the people who are watching, and just to you in general. You've been married for how long?
13 years.
Okay, so you've never been on a dating app. I am part of a generation that relies on it for the most part.
I have to correct that. When Match.com first came out, so I've never been on a swipe situation, which would be so fun. Sometimes I've wanted to just have a profile just so I can judge people. But I did Match.com for like a year, and before I met my husband, of course. But anyway, so no apps. But yeah, I did get to do a little bit of the internet dating.
Okay, Match.com is a website, and it's an app now, but at the time, back in 1980, whenever you were dating, it was...
Nice
okay,
one,
so, I mean, I'm really young. I just turned 33, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, just to give you a frame of reference, there's an app right now called... there's an app right now called Bumble, and before, okay, so I knew that I was a conservative, like straight up, like I admitted to myself, like I'm a fucking conservative. Like I admitted that to myself when I turned 25 or 6, right? I didn't come out as conservative, but I knew that I was. So, but even when I admitted to myself that I was a conservative, I knew how hard it would be for me to date as a conservative, or if people knew I was conservative in Los Angeles. So even on my dating apps, I didn't say anything about politics, and sometimes I would, if they asked me what my thoughts were on Trump or whatever, like I would lie and you know, like a coward, I would pretend that I was a liberal just to get some pussy. So, so
you should have seen Juan's face.
So that went on for a couple of so that went on for a couple of years because I'm a young guy in my 20s, and like who doesn't, you know? But once I turned 27, I think, so here's once I'm 28, I got this like, and the more obviously over the years I just became more and more and more conservative. Like I felt this, like, it's cliche and corny to say, but it was like a true emptiness. Like when I would go on Instagram and Instagram's algorithm would suggest like different political accounts to me, and those political accounts would post the pictures of like their family on a ranch, mom, dad, daughter, son, and it's just them, a family unit on a ranch somewhere with this, like I found myself like, you know, this word gets used often, but I don't think people really understand what I felt, a longing for that. It was so drastic, the change in me. And so I couldn't do it anymore. So on my dating apps, I needed to filter out anybody that doesn't match my values and beliefs for marriage materials. So on all my dating apps, I openly stated that I'm a conservative in the first sentence, right? Literally right now, my dating apps, the opening sentence is a proud conservative, patriotic, Second Amendment, country music, fuck yeah, like stuff like that, right?
Yes.
On all my dating apps, it's the same thing. Now, just to give you a frame of reference, when I didn't put my political leanings on my dating apps, on Bumble, this is not an exaggeration. One day you could ask any of my friends, they'll tell you, on average, I would be getting 27 matches a week, which is a lot. That's actually a lot, right, for Bumble? And then when I openly put that I was a conservative, now I'm lucky if I get one match every 2 months. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. And most of the time, when they do match with me, they did it on accident because they just looked at my pictures, they didn't read my bio, maybe that they thought I was cute and they swiped right? Or, because girls tend to read the bios more than guys do, because guys are visually oriented, so we just swipe based on who's hot. Girls look for a little more like personality matches and stuff like that, right? So, usually they swipe right because they thought I was hot and they didn't read my bio. Or sometimes they match on purpose just to be able to message me to cuss me out for being a conservative. This has happened 3 times.
Oh my God. Really?
One of them matched with me and her sentence was, go kill yourself. The second one was, you should be ashamed of being Asian and a conservative. And the third one was just, I think it was something like, go fuck yourself. It was different.
Oh my gosh.
Girls, all 3 of those girls, white liberal girls.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say, I bet they're not Asian. Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Go kill yourself. I mean, seriously, you hear of all of that nonsense, and thank God I'm like somewhat removed from that world, but that is so disgusting. Oh my gosh. But you're better off doing what you're doing. I mean, that's.
I mean, but as far as dating goes, it's not. As far as dating goes currently, it's not. Things have been getting slightly better. I am still technically single, but things have been getting slightly better because ever since my account started getting on more people's maps, like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like I get some DMs, you know what I mean? But again,
come on.
Well, but the thing is, even with the DMs, like they're coming from girls where it doesn't make any realistic sense. So it's basically like, oh yeah, you're hot, but you're a single mother of 4 in Ohio. Like, okay, like what did you think I was gonna? Like, what did you think I was gonna pack up my stuff and go to Ohio to see you? And then like, what did you think I was gonna do? Like, I was gonna, or they're from like, I don't know. I got one from Oregon. There's I mean, they come from all over the place, but there's also like, and I think you might have seen on my Instagram feed, like I'm meeting more and more conservatives all the time because I help to put on these SoCal conservative like speakeasies with some friends of mine. We put it on. We have one coming up for July 31st tentatively. So I meet new patriots all the time, and then everybody introduces each other, and then you know, of course, like a lot of them just recognize me, and they're like, "Oh my God, aren't you the blah 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 blah?" And so you know, I'm meeting new people all the time. So it's not as bad as it once was before I started my account, but as far as like dating apps and stuff like that goes, it's still hard. It's I mean, first of all, dating in Los Angeles is hard. Period, right? Because Los Angeles is the place statistically where literally the top 2 to 3% hottest people in the world come to try to make it in the industry that's based on looks, right? Acting, modeling, things like that. So when I tell you that at best I'm a Los Angeles 2, that is not an exaggeration, right? So.
I never want to go there. Oh my gosh.
Well, no. But to be fair, like I have to work very, very hard to even be a 2 in Los Angeles. I eat very strict. I work out. Like I grew myself. So because I try hard to keep up in Los Angeles, where I'm a 2, in some podunk place like Portland, Oregon, or Oregon in general, I'm a 12, right? So.
Dropping bombs. Look at that. I know, in Portland. Oh my gosh, it's funny. Yeah, there. You know what's funny? I was I had to drive through Portland on the way to and from the beach recently, and I was looking around. Yeah, it's not right in Portland. Not pretty. But yeah, that's hysterical. You're not a 2, but anyways, that. I know what you're saying though, because I mean, it's crazy. You feel like that at least I felt like that in Miami. I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah, no, that's intense. Oh boy. All right. I want to talk about, you are the founder of Axit. Am I saying Asian Exit, correct? Kind of like how Candace Owens is the founder of Blexit. So, yeah. How did you get going with that? Like, where did you start off?
Well, okay, so I waited around for years for another Asian conservative to do what Candace Owens was doing. And there's a Lexit too, Latino Exit. I waited around for years for someone else to. By the way, I was there when those 2 organizations kicked off. They kicked off here in Los Angeles.
No way.
Saw Candace Owens. Yeah, I saw Candace Owens live in an auditorium when she kicked it off, like Blexit, as a whole. She kicked it off here in Los Angeles. I was there. I was there when Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, Jesse, the guy who runs Lexit, Larry Elder was there, Ann Coulter was there. Like I was there when they kicked it off, and I was very. It was like it was awe-inspiring. To say the least. But even after that, I waited around for years for the Asian one because everything I just told you about what I noticed about how liberals treat Asians, all that stuff, like this is all stuff that I was thinking about, but nobody was vocalizing it, right? And not only was nobody vocalizing it, I already knew that nobody would, like not a lot of, because Asians culturally were very quiet, right? Part of the reason why my account has grown so much in such a short amount of time. So it hasn't even been a full year yet, but I'm at 17.2K. So, and then the accident account is at 5,700. And then so the reason why it's grown so much is because people have been waiting for an Asian conservative to speak up like this for quite some time now. And B, the reason why it's grown and it's so much, and the reason why it's so alluring is because not only were people waiting for an Asian to speak up, nobody expected the Asian to speak up the way that I do, which is savage as fuck, right?
Yes,
I'm gonna assume when they hear the Korean conservative, for people who've never seen my account, when they hear the Korean conservative, they're expecting like a meek, like nothing funny, just all facts and stuff, which I'm factual, but the thing is, they probably expected like a PowerPoint presentation, right? They did not expect me. So that being said,
with the little remote, the PowerPoint with the remote.
Oh yeah, with the remote, with the laser point maybe. So yeah, nobody was expecting me, and so I waited around for years for someone to start, and nobody was doing it. Nobody was doing it. So finally one day, I was like, I am every bit the stereotype of the passive Asian male if I don't fucking do something. So in August of 2020, when the riots and stuff were at its peak, I started the Korean conservative account. I started that. I actually technically have a YouTube channel, right? I have one video on there. It's that one video is the thesis statement of Axit. Like, I list out factually all the reasons why conservative policies benefit Asians most. For those of you who want to look it up, it's The Korean Conservative on YouTube, same thing. And awesome. that one YouTube video, you don't even have to look at it. It doesn't have any visuals for it's just me speaking into the camera. But listen to it like a podcast. Listen to all the facts, details. See if I'm wrong. I'm not, but see if I'm wrong. So ever since then, so I officially started my Korean conservative account and the YouTube account and all the other stuff like around then. And then in that YouTube video, I coined the term Axit. Nobody had done it before. I finally coined it. And yes, it's inspired by Candace Owens' Blexit, which in turn was inspired by Britain's Brexit. And it's also inspired by Lexit and the walkaway movement, all that stuff. And I started it. Then on the Korean conservative account, I was just, doing what I was doing, but maybe not as much as what I'm doing now, but I was just making memes and stuff here and there. But then I got picked up by Lexit. Lexit reached out to me and they showed me the ropes. They said, yeah, we've been waiting for an Asian exit for quite some time, right? And they showed me the ropes. Even though I had nothing to offer them in return, no traffic, no followers, no nothing, they showed me the ropes. Like, it's important for you to start a separate Axit page instead of just keeping it all on the Korean conservative page. And then from there, I shifted of making my Korean conservative page the personality page so people can get attracted to it at first, but then I'd be redirecting everybody to Axit, the Axit page, so Asian conservatives can feel open to speak out just like I am. They don't have to do it exactly the way that I am, but they can tell their story on the Axit page, because right now there is no other space out there online for Asian conservatives to voice their libertarian or conservative journey from an Asian standpoint. There is a Blexit, there's a Lexit, there's a Walkaway, there's a whole bunch of other things, but for Asians, there just wasn't any until I made this. And the reason why a lot of people were like, weren't you afraid to show your face and stuff like that? Of course I was. Of course I was afraid, right? I believe it or not, like when I first started, I was so camera shy that you could actually, in my earliest videos, you could actually see me perspire a little because I'm nervous. So, when I first started, of course I was scared, but what I came to the realization was this, like, Asians as a culture they don't like to take initiative often. They always like to wait for someone else to do it first. Someone else who looks like them and is legitimately an Asian. If I hid behind a voiceover screen, like, if you didn't know I was Asian, by the way that I'm speaking, most people might think I'm a white guy or a Latino guy, right? So there's no guarantee. A lot of Asians wouldn't mobilize because they're like, we don't even know if you're like a fellow Asian or not. You could just be talking shit trying to mobilize the Asian vote. They needed to see that I literally am one of them. They needed to see it. Because I know, being a Korean, like, culturally, they're not inclined to follow suit until they're sure that it can work. And now they are sure that it can work because they see my Korean conservative account and they see how well it's doing. So now they're open to coming out on the Axit page and starting their own online conservative journeys. The point of the Korean conservative account isn't necessarily me. It's it's to show other Asians that anybody can be the next Korean conservative. Like, not literally the next Korean conservative, but like literally you can be that next online Asian conservative figure. Anybody can do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's amazing. You're inspiring people. So I'm curious with Exit, is it any hitting the streets, or is it mostly digital in the social media space?
It is hitting the streets so at the height of the Beverly Hills and Huntington Beach rallies, I would go with a sign.
That instinct you have to protect the.
Oh,
it's okay.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So that it's hitting the streets when I was still rallying like pretty hard. People were asking me like, what's an Axit? What's hashtag Axit? Because I would be going with a sign, and I'd have fellow Axit peoples from Los Angeles or Orange County like joining me like in our own separate group at the rallies. So obviously people would ask what it is, and then over time it didn't even have to come to a point where I had to even announce what it is, because at this point, like whether it's in Los Angeles or Orange County, like people, when I go to a rally, people tend to like recognize me. So I don't really have to explain what it is, but when sometimes people who still don't know what it is, I do tell them exactly what it's about and what they can do if they want to support it. But for the most part, it's right now it's mostly digital, because I can't go out there and meet and greet every single, like it just doesn't make any sense, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's great. That's what it is. We do what we can. Like I know RAM is like, for instance, this weekend there is a medical freedom conference in Anaheim that I would love to attend, but just with my husband's schedule and with my family, and my daughter just had surgery, I can't. And so it's one of those things, but I do what I can, and I continue on to, post videos from my house and go out, and there's local rallies and do what we can. And so I think that's great. I wanted to ask you a few things. One, I know that recently you got together with Christian Walker, and he's someone that I really admire also, and he also has a great personality. The two of you combined, that is explosive. But I'm just curious how that went, getting to meet him.
So we've actually, he started following me. So one of my Instagram posts went viral on Twitter for about a good week. And I've been following him for a while, but it finally put me on his radar. So he followed me, and then like he would DM me and I would DM him just saying like, dude, I fucking love your account. Like he would say the same thing, like, I love your account too. Because he goes after Black American culture, or the toxic elements of Black American culture, the same as I do. Right? He uses different language, but he goes after just as hard. So he really does love my account, and I love his account. And he's one of my, like, there's a number of conservative influencers, my templates for how my different levels of savagery, and he was one of them. So and then I finally got around to getting his number from a mutual friend of ours. And then one day he showed up on my live, and people were, different conservatives were in the LA area on this one live, were accusing me of legitimately, cliche, like being a racist against Black people. And then he hopped on the live, and people were like, holy shit, Christian Walker's in here. And he, once and for all, he shut everybody up. He was like, I'm Black, I'm a Black and gay conservative, and I go through I love his account, I see all his stuff, and none of it offended me, case closed. He literally said that, and then everybody shut up. And then so, after having his number for so long, I was like, screw it, let me thank him. So I called him, I thanked him for it, and then we were on texting terms from that point on. Finally, I was just like, dude, you want to just go out to lunch? Like, you want to have lunch? And he was like, oh, yeah. So we had lunch, we had dim sum, and that conversation, I can't go into detail, but we roasted every group, everybody. It was hilarious. And he bought me coffee. He's a really nice guy. He bought me coffee. Why?
Yeah, he seems very genuine, and I'm happy that you guys were able to get together, because especially being from that area. And then just coming from the backgrounds that you come from, though very different, you still face a lot of the same aspects. And so I just thought I saw the picture of you two, and I was like, oh, that is so good. You guys are such a great pairing. And I admire him. And yes, he is.
A lot of people have been asking for at least one reel, like of us two like roasting somebody, because just based on our people have been wanting that for quite some time now, and I don't know, like I want him to know that I'm gonna try to be his friend because of who he is, as opposed to I don't want him to know that I'm his friend because of what he can do for me. So I didn't bring that up not once. So
I totally get that. Yeah, I respect that a lot. I definitely tread lightly too when it comes to that type of stuff. Okay, second thing, I know we only have like 7 minutes left, but I really want to get to the fact that as you saw in my recent video, I'm really disgusted with what Caitlyn Jenner had to say during her interview with Tucker Carlson, his interview. Some of my followers didn't like that I've been referring to her as her, but so I'm trying not to be a complete dickhole here, but anyways, so during Caitlyn's interview with Tucker Carlson, for those of you who missed it, basically said, I'm not, basically, I don't owe anything to Trump. I don't owe anything to the conservative party, Republicans, yada, yada. I am here for the LGBTQ plus community. That is so wrong on so many levels. I don't have to go into that. You already know why. But I mean, we should be here. If you're running for the California governor, you should be running for the people of California, not just a small percentage of people that make one decision within. Anyways, so Jenner's out, in my opinion, and I think the majority of folks probably feel the same. Larry Elder, however, what are your thoughts on Larry running?
He most likely has my vote. Even in the video that I mentioned on my YouTube channel, I specifically dedicate an entire portion to Larry Elder, and I thank him. There is footage of him, Larry Elder, the black conservative, who's one of my heroes, but somehow I'm a racist, right? There's video footage of him from the 90s where he's defending Koreans and their rights and the Korean and the Korean community and Asians as a whole. After the LA riots disproportionately affected us. There's footage of him from the 90s doing that, and he hasn't shifted his position since. I need to thank him in some way for standing up for us when nobody else was at the time. Everybody was, oh, poor black people, but against the Asians, oh, they have it good so they can take it. He was defending us at the expense of his own reputation amongst black. He did it. And I feel like the Asian population, especially that of California, owes him a debt of gratitude on that front too. So, and keeping in mind, not only because he's a personal hero of mine, but he was a personal hero of mine even before that. I found that video footage of him from the 90s. Okay, so honestly, he probably has my vote. I'm really glad to hear that he's running. Jenner never had my vote because it just doesn't make any sense. So you're obviously not mentally stable. What makes you think that I'm going to trust you with any sort of grand decision?
Right. I totally get that. Who is there? Someone Cox running also? I'm trying to think. Does Larry have a competition?
I believe so, but he's not like a winner. He's not a. And then there's also Anthony Trimino, who I'm going to be speaking with soon one-on-one just to see where he's at. But so far, I would lean towards Larry Elder by like a lot, unless Anthony Trimino can blow my socks off.
Nice. Well, that's exciting that you get a chance to, I didn't know, I've never heard of Anthony, but that's awesome that you get a chance to connect with him and see what he's all about. So yeah, that's exciting. When is that taking place?
That should be taking place this Monday, because I think he's starting to understand. Okay, you know how I mentioned earlier that people never cared about the Asian vote because we don't make up a large enough voting bloc?
Right.
Okay, so this comes from both the liberals and conservatives. They never cared about thinking about policies that affect Asians because they were just like, oh, like it doesn't matter. And by and large, in terms of like the U.S. demographic, like because we only make up 5 to 7% of the U.S. population, yes, as a rule of thumb, they're not wrong. But in California, yes, our demographic vote matters. In California, yes, it does. Okay, so when I convince Anthony Trimino, like, hey, like you're not gonna get the black and Latino liberal vote. It's just not gonna happen, right? So why don't you try a gamble on a voting bloc that doesn't really vote anyway, and try to convince them to vote for you by being coming out with harsher sentences for criminals in California? Because part of the reason why Asians are being attacked so disproportionately right now is because they're emboldened by weak laws, right?
Right.
So why don't you if you can guarantee me what are your plans to do that at the expense of public ridicule for not being PC enough? Like, I'd love to hear what your stance is about, like, bowing to the mob for the sake of being PC at the expense of Asian lives and livelihoods. I want to talk to him about that. And depending on his answer, I might change my mind from Larry Elder to him. But Larry Elder hasn't shifted his positions much since the 90s. Right. Consistency is key here, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. That's huge. And such a difference from Jenner, right? I mean, it's so in your face, but I mean, yeah. So I don't even have to talk about Jenner. I feel like they're done. They're done. Like, but yeah, no, I love that you are taking the time to go gather the Anthony's stance as well. I think that's really impactful that you're able to do that. And then who you can throw your weight behind, whoever you truly feel. One, obviously, who's going to be the best fit, but two, who really can have a shot at doing this. Yes. Gosh, I would love to see a conservative as the California governor. That would be really nice. But all right. It has been such a pleasure having you on. And you are just, I find you entertaining. Two, I think you're a great person. And I love your passion. And I know that what you do has come with some risk, a lot of risk and loss, right? What we do, we put ourselves at risk to lose our jobs, to lose friends, to alienate ourselves from family members. I don't think people necessarily realize that this is a time investment also. We're fighting for the freedom for our country. And I see that in you every day. And yeah, you're funny and entertaining, but it's so much deeper than that. And so I just appreciate you for what you do and continue to do, despite the fact it's an uphill challenge for us. And so I just really impressed by you and just absolutely love your material and your content. So thank you. I really am humbled that you came on and spent the hour here with me this evening. So thank you.
The honor was mine. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have a wonderful night. I'm going to talk to you guys about a little bit that RAM has going on here. So one, please do not forget that RAM is partnered with MyPillow, Mike Lindell, a wonderful patriot. So we have our own discount code. And initially I was thinking, was it like 10%? It's a hefty discount code. A lot more than 10%. It can vary, but check it out. So when you make a purchase online, it is MyPillow and then RAM, RAM for your discount code. And we have our own number, and it's 1-800-867-0416. So you can call that number, and that tracks back to RAM TV. The other thing is, after me, if you guys can hang on. So as you know, as you saw last week, we have the new show, and that's the Counter Culture Mon. So hang on and watch her. But right after me, we also have Charles Sauers, and he talks U.S. policy, and what he does just makes so much sense. So I find it very entertaining. So if you can hang on, that's a short segment, and that's coming directly after my show here. We were just RAM TV. We were just at CPAC. I wasn't personally there. I wish I could have been. We're just at CPAC, did some lives there. And then, like I said, this weekend, going to be in Anaheim at the Medical Freedom Conference. There'll be some lives over Saturday and Sunday. Please tune in for that. Like I said, right after me, hang on, we've got Charles Sauers coming up.
Do you remember our first group photo? This is it. Smiles all around, even though we were all nervous.
Who could have imagined that our first weekend together would soon turn into a lifetime of memories?
You're an amazing young man. Your brothers and sisters really look up to you. They're a big brother.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
You know, Took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
There are so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
I ain't never felt so much love before in my life.
Hi, I'm Charlie Sauers, president of the Market Institute Foundation and editor of U.S. Policy. Today, I want to talk to you about a problem that I'm currently seeing in government, an overregulation problem. You see, from Bernie Sanders to Josh Hawley, we're in an expansionary era of government, an era of antitrust peddling and regulation meddling. And while some might find these paternalistic intrusions okay or acceptable because of how they feel about a certain company or even a certain industry, the problem is that these intrusions have real effects on the economy, real effects on innovation, and real effects on our everyday lives. A glaring example of this is currently playing out in the cryptocurrency market, which is shaping up to be yet another unfortunate proof point, demonstrating to us all just how bad things can get when the government is just too big to stay out of the way. Cryptocurrencies are currently poised to change the way that we make transactions, track inventory, manage supply chains, and countless other areas that might not have even been developed or considered yet. That is exciting, but the government can't figure out a way how to treat cryptocurrencies, and yet the government is too big and intrusive to ignore them. So what we have is a hodgepodge of gray areas highlighted by idiosyncrasies in communication, enforcement, and future regulatory forecast. That means that companies are forced to make decisions today without standards and based almost entirely on an unclear idea of what future actions or inactions of government are going to be. This is the biggest problem facing the crypto industry in America today. One example of this is the government's decision on whether or not XRP is a security or not. While there had been no decision, there had been hints of where the government would rule based on other coins and statements from bureaucrats that made it seem like those in charge of deciding the coin's fate both understood the coin and the market. And while hints aren't great and aren't law, at some point you just have to keep moving in an industry that is developing as quickly as crypto. However, the SEC just decided that not only is XRP a security offering from Ripple, but they are now looking to enforce this so-called selling of an unregistered security going back 7 years. And while there might be some people that think that XRP is a security, there is nobody that can believe that enforcing this gray area going back 7 years does anything except completely paralyze this budding industry. In fact, the Ripple case has already sent a chill through many crypto industry startups, leading some to consider moving abroad where rules have been set up to restrain government intrusion instead of maximizing it. But government problems come in other flavors besides just gray. They also come with cronyism and favoritism. The SEC's Ripple complaint case was filed by an SEC led by former heads Jay Clayton and William Hinman, who it has now been reported both have what appear to be some glaring conflicts of interest on cryptocurrencies. So not only were there gray areas, but bureaucrats with conflicts of interest potentially leverage those gray areas to take out a competing solution. Conflicts of interest are a good reason unto themselves to limit government, but these are the types of actions that will shatter the SEC's credibility in the crypto community. In fact, these are the types of actions that can shatter a trust of government. An overly bloated government can't help itself. Government bureaucrats earn more power and have an incentive to take intrusive actions. And with such little guidance, it is almost impossible for them to do anything besides taking selective actions to pick winners and losers. The global crypto industry could be led by the US if the government would just get out of the way and stop trying to help. However, the crypto industry and the government's unnecessary intervention is just a symptom of the bigger problem. A reliance on big government, a belief that big government is benevolent, a yearning for the easy answer to the hard questions. We need to get back to a reliance and a belief in ourselves. We need to limit government. Limiting government limits the abilities for cronies to steer politicians. A limited government eliminates gray areas that slow down innovation and invite corruption. A limited government will help the U.S. unleash our amazing innovators and continue running the most robust economy in the world. I appreciate your time today. I thank you for listening. If you have any thoughts on this, please leave a comment below, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you next time. Thank you.
And we're back. This is Tina Griffin, host of Counter Culture Mon show, and I cannot wait to have you guys hear from one of my dear friends. Man, we go back, what, 5, 6, 10 years?
Let's not say.
Yeah, let's not say.
Back when we were just both starting out.
Absolutely.
Like, the internet is a new thing, and we were in a new thing. And
we were both 12. That's when we met.
That's when we met, yeah.
So I'm with Mona Corwin, international speaker. You care deeply about moms. You're the founder, creator of Moms Like Us Academy. You have a show coming out on YouTube. You've been all over the place, author. I mean, you've done it all to help equip moms to crush it in motherhood and not be crushed. I think that I'm the reason I'm still alive today because of you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
No, I'm not.
It was a hard job, just saying.
There was a couple times where I call her bawling. I'm like, can't do this anymore. She goes, okay, time out. Talk to me.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I get a lot of those calls.
So you know what? We have a short episode, but I could hear you share from your heart for literally a couple hours in a row. For the listeners, this whole session, this series of experts are talking about the breakdown of American families and what causes that. You have the topic of divorce, which is skyrocketing because of COVID, the pressure, the stress, financial issues, and not just divorce, but you have a couple of other key topics you believe are the reason we see a major breakdown of families here in America today. I'm excited to dive in deep. So right off the top, what are some of the key reasons you think that the family structure, the way God designed families to be in America, has completely crumbled? Not for all of us, but for a lot.
Yeah. Well, we're all struggling. We're all struggling, and we are going to struggle because we live in a fallen world, and we have an enemy, and that enemy does not want marriages to last, because a marriage is the beautiful reflection of Christ in the church and the way God designed it. So there's always going to be added pressure to making that beautiful design flourish and really work. And so the main thing that we have struggle with is that we have an enemy, and that enemy is come to kill, steal, and destroy. And you could be in any one of these three, but chances are you will have to battle this as you go through a marriage that you want to have to be a godly marriage. So number one, we do have an enemy, and you just have to realize you do and make steps to battle that. And that's one of the things that we teach in the academy. That's one of the things that I coach moms. I coach lots of pastors' wives. They just have a safe place where they can talk to me, and so nobody will know they're saying in their churches. But I do believe, and it is my opinion, but I feel like it's really strong, that one of the biggest breakdowns of the family is feminism. And I know that that's a hard topic for moms to hear because we've all been influenced by feminism in some way. The first thing I want to tell you about it is an ism. When something is an ism, that means it's a theory.
And explain what this theory is, because a lot of people students today growing up in schools are taught that is the way of the century we're currently in, that trendy new thing, be a feminist, get out there, workforce, work your way up the ladder, take the men out as you're going through. Who cares about having kids? Explain what feminism is, because a lot of young kids and even parents sometimes don't know exactly what that is. It sounds nuts. But.
Well, just a little bit of background. Feminism is not women's suffrage, where women back in the early 1900s, where they were fighting for the vote for women. It is not the same thing as feminism. They were actually moms that believed in families, and they wanted to vote their morals and their values into the culture that they lived in. And they were not feminists like we're seeing. In the 60s, feminism took on a real hard edge. And their manifesto is straight up: get rid of the men, demasculate them, become like men, and like we're all equal. Well, the truth is, the Bible says we are all equal. And in Genesis 1:27, God said, "Let us make man in our image, male and female." Now, here's something interesting, Tina, that I kind of didn't see until I started studying this 20 years ago, and now I kind of am an authority on it. I guess people ask me questions on it. The word "let's make man in our own image" was not "let's make man." It meant mankind. So there's mankinds. There's a male and a female. So he made kinds.
Wait. You're saying there's not 71 genders like what Facebook pumps out? No, okay.
No,
okay, just
sorry.
Make sure we're on the same page. Good. Yeah.
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing. God's word is always correct, and God doesn't have to redesign anything because he gets it right the first time.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing because he made us.
I think he's God.
I think you need to start running the school boards across this country, Mona.
I know.
So feminism,
I did that too.
I just want to light a match and say bye-bye feminism. What would you say to the families who have kids growing up in the homes today that believe feminism is okay, or even the parents that think it's not a big deal, or that's what they don't see the danger of living out that theory?
Yeah.
What would you say to them, and how can we get them to go from the feminism view to a godly view?
Mm-hmm. Well, most women that I talk to, and they believe that feminism is just equal pay and let's be fair and all of that. They do not know the agenda of the feminist movement.
And what is that agenda?
That agenda is literally to take motherhood and children out of the picture. And it's a big push for career, which I'm all for careers. I help moms maintain their gifts and talents and how to put them into their lives so that they can really raise their kids and not destroy their family, but you don't want to lose yourself.
Right.
Like, I've done all kinds of things in my life, even though I've been home. Got to tell you something that is really important. Being equal is a really important thing in our identity. And so to teach your children correctly that yes, men and women are equal, and God made them equally loved, equally valued, equally created in his image, with gifts and talents that are expressed through our gender to display the image of God through our gender. So if you're nurturing, the way you nurture as a man is going to look different than the way you nurture as a woman. But children are being nurtured because our God is so big. So yes, we are equally made and equally loved. This is what to teach our kids. The second thing I would love for moms to do, do a little investigating on these women that started feminism.
So good.
Not a real happy group. Divorce is up. Like, the experiment should be over because we're in almost 60 years now. Women are not happier. Divorce rates are higher than ever. And you know what? There's a new divorce rate. First divorce rate is 50%. Second marriage is 60%.
Wow.
Third marriage is 70% chance of divorce. And there's a new group, and it's called gray divorce, because they're divorcing after the age of 50. Their kids are gone and they're getting a divorce.
I constantly hear that. I'm like, why? You guys have been married for 35 years. What in the world? 50 years. Why would you? And explain the divorce rate because of feminism. How does feminism cause divorce to happen? Because that is wreaking havoc in our lives today. And the sad thing is, our kids are, besides just the two adults that are parting ways, you have our kids that have to suffer with thinking that it was because of them, they're not good enough, tossed around from home to home, back and forth. And especially the one thing I constantly get when I'm traveling the streets speaking, I'll have a lot of parents frustrated because the other spouse lets their kids do X, Y, Z, which is very dangerous compared to what the person I'm talking to at that event is saying. Like, I want to shelter my kids and make sure they're around positive entertainment and have the right friends, and I send my kids off to my husband's or my wife's house, and it's a complete, or ex-wife, and it's a complete opposite message, and my kids are very confused because they're constantly having to switch their worldviews 3 times a week. So how does feminism cause divorce to skyrocket, and how can we educate the masses on knowing what feminism is?
Okay, well, you can go to the academy.
you have an academy. You're very solution driven, which is exactly why I love why you do what you do.
Yeah, that's what we do. Moms Like Us Academy. You're going to learn skills, strategies, tips, tools to be the mom and have the marriage. Nobody wants their marriage to fall apart. Nobody wants to screw up their kids. But when you have tools and methods, you're a smart girl. You just implement this, try that. Like, this is what we needed. Back in the day, we had grandmas and grandpas and aunties that would come along and say, are you really talking to your man like that? Like, let's have a chat. So as in regards to feminism, is that in the Bible, the curse that we have as women was that we would have pain in childbirth. Boo, and don't we? Yeah. And that pain in childbirth and birthing and then growing them up, like the pain is really, I think, more intense for moms than it is for dads. Yeah. I think we can all agree, especially as women. We're here. So if you don't agree, we're sorry. But then the second part of that curse is one that no one really wants to talk about, but we need to look at it. And it said, you will want to be over your husband, but yet he will be over you. So when you figure out what a godly marriage entails, what God says about it, then you can say, oh, well, I have a question about submission. I have a question about, my husband being too rough. I have a question about these things. Then you're able to work those things through a godly lens.
I love that. And this is what you get if you join your Moms Like Us Academy.
Yes, and of course, one-on-one coaching with me. Of course, we can get right to the heart of it. I don't do as much one-on-one as I used to because I'm so involved with the Academy, and now with the new live show and the podcast and all the content I'm trying to pump out.
Okay.
So, but we do group coaching, which is like a mastermind of moms that get together and we talk about issues and we work through them.
I think that's absolutely key because a lot of women think that they're alone. They don't know who to talk to. They feel embarrassed. And I have to say 110%, there have been some very raw and real things I've shared with you over the years while being married to Luke, doing the ministry I'm working on, 4 kids in 4 years. Now they're 12 and under. And you have not sugar-coated stuff for me, and I greatly appreciate that. When it was me that had to do the whipping and shape, you'd crack the whip in a very godly, loving manner, and it was what I needed to hear because so many times friends will just tell you, oh, it's men, or, just move on, you'll find somebody else. Or
what if it's not men?
What if it's you? What if it's us? And I'm like, I really want to be told. I want to go to a church service where I leave feeling convicted. I got 3 more things I need to work on this week. I don't want to be a passive bench warmer Christian. And you have been astronomical in helping me grow to even where we are right now with our ministries because you care so much about women. You just took me under your wing pretty much the first time we met. We were at a Michael Hyatt conference. We were in line for food. You bought me something. 3 minutes into our conversation, I was crying. You gave me a hug, and we were friends ever since. So it's, thank you for being there for me. Sure. So Moms Like Us Academy, women can jump on. Where exactly can they go to sign up for your course and learn more about how they can be mentored by you?
Okay. You go to monacorwin.org or momslikeus.org, and we have a new website. I'm really excited about it. And so all of the information is there. We do have Facebook. We're not there very much because
Big tech.
I guess big tech doesn't like moms like me. Moms like us doesn't like moms like us.
Maybe the big tech head honchos didn't have moms like they should have had, and that's why they're having problems with their pages.
Yeah, well, they're not my gang.
Okay, so you said something critical to me right before we started this interview. You were talking about the huge trend that's going on right now with career women going back home to raise their young children or even teens. Tell us about it. And that's why your ministry is so needed, because now they're like, what do we do? How do we get started? Help me balance all this mess.
That's exactly what's happening. These moms have been, done what the feminists told them to do. Like, be career oriented, get out there and make the job, break that glass ceiling, which I still don't understand that.
Sounds like you get injured.
That's a thought. Anyways, but the whole thing is that we've been trained to be very career driven and not to pay attention to the fact that children will probably be something that we want in our lives, because they kind of think that's dumb. And the 12 women that sat in the apartment in New York City at the very beginning of this, none of those women have come out happy or anything. So an entire culture has bought into a lie. It's just a trend, and it just kind of started and rolling. But now we have career moms that are in their late 30s and 40s, and they're like, hey, I want a baby. Yeah. Tick, 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 right? So they're finding out, hey, maybe, they're finding out that they might not have enough eggs. You only have so many eggs. I don't know if you know this, but I do. So a tip, you only have so many eggs, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, and you use them every month, if you know what I mean. So, bottom line, they are deciding to come home and have their kids. And they're saying, I want to raise my kid. Like, I already had all that. I want to be home with my kids. I want to raise them. I don't want to just have somebody else do it. I want the fun. What's happening is they're getting home. There's no 30-day review. There's no bonuses, none. And kids talk back. Like, they don't have manners. They don't do what you say. And most of these women have been bosses. So they're like I can't get
cracking the whip in the home.
Yeah, what the heck? And all they do, nobody listens to me, and it doesn't matter whether I claim anything. Oh yeah, and so no paycheck. No cool clothes, lunch,
Now, I'm not supportive.
Somebody else's lunch, like PB&J.
Now, I'm not supportive of Oprah at all, but she said something about 20 years ago that I keep reminding Luke every other year. I'm like, hey, Oprah did say that if we got paid for our job every year, we'd make something like $16 million a year, something astronomical,
Well, we don't have to look to Oprah for that, because there's actual stats. I'll get you those stats, so you don't have to talk about. I'll get it for you.
Okay,
so we do have stats.
Even though we're talking about PB&J and kids talking back, this is very critical. You also, there's so much research you've done over the years to get to where you're at, to know why things are happening in our culture and how to help women fix it. Because some of us are too busy to have the research you have and the wisdom with an amazing marriage to a man that, I see more pictures of you kissing your husband than I think I have of mine kissing me, just on the net. If you search, just kidding. Okay, I won't go in there. Okay. Yeah. This is cut. Yeah. Cut. Take 17. So getting in with that, you just said something profound earlier. When moms are now wanting to get back in the home or get in the home for the first time and raise their kids, even though they're not used to being in that environment, and kids might talk back, they see the joy and blessing in that. But you said the importance of moms raising their kids for the first 3 years are so critical in the home. And you know how many parents I know, even people in our family, that have popped the kids out of the womb and sent them off to daycare or had grandparents raise them. And it rips my heart out, because the moms are missing out on raising their kids. But even more so, talk to us about the importance of the mother being there for the child in their early toddler years.
It is vital. And we have CAT scans, we have MRIs, we have all kinds of tests. There's also another book by Suzanne Venker, and it is called The Flip Side of Feminism. I highly suggest you read that. Very well documented. Suzanne we're about the same age, so we kind of followed the mess that these people have been making all along. And like I wasn't like the nerdy kid, but I knew that I liked boys, and then they're mad at men, but they're attracted to men. So now they're in a mess. Oh, wait, they have an answer for that too.
Right.
Like, yeah, they have an answer for that too.
Now, you were mentioning when kids are 5 and under, let's say younger kids, and the mom is not in the home raising them. What happens to that young child if the mom is not there?
The child actually feels separation anxiety at a really high extreme level, and especially in the first 3 years. And being there, that book has like lots of the stats on what happens, and she's of course a professional, and she sees the anxiety and the acting out, and she believes the ADHD and this kind of stuff is exacerbated. It's made worse because of that. So it makes sense, and it is okay if the dad's there, but it's not the same thing. Like moms, God knew. Look at me. When God knew that he was going to send Jesus to the earth, he didn't send him to academia. He didn't send him to the government. He didn't send them to the village. He sent them into the arms of a mother. That's who he sent it to, because he knew that that was the safest place for him to be. And times haven't changed, and God knew. And we just have to elevate the value of motherhood.
You know what, and that is so good. And when you were talking, I'm like, that could also be a reason why a lot of our preteens and teens are a lot more rebellious in the home, because they really didn't have that foundational development of a relationship. I'm not saying every single time, but it has a factor.
Oh yeah, the bonding of a mother to a child will make it easier. That does not mean that if you didn't do that, you cannot have that.
Right.
There is always redemption. That's what our God is all about, redemption. And you can redeem this, but it will take a little work, and you will need some help.
You got me on fire. It's just amazing. I love when I learn like 82 things in 25 minutes. You know, for me personally, when I had 4 kids in 4 years, I was speaking at that time for almost about, 10 years, somewhere in there. And I knew that God wasn't telling me to quit. So what I did was, and this sounds crazy, I traveled with my infants. It might have been nuts, but I wanted them with me 24/7. So I didn't have a child caretaker while I'm on the road speaking. So they would come with me. I would feed them, and then hand the little infant off to a high school student, and hey, what's up, Pulaski High School, woo woo, like 3 seconds later, and do a school assembly, because I wanted my kids with me. And it was hard, it was busy, but at the same time, I'm looking back thinking I would rather have done that than say I missed the entire first 10 years of my kids growing up. So get creative in this day and age. If God gave you a ministry as a mom that you can still have an impact in your culture and your community, there's a lot of online businesses you can do. You can have women over for a Bible study. You can design things and sell them online. What are some other quick things that some of your academy?
The academy absolutely.
What are some moms that
we help
have
find, certain? Of course, there's lots of, all the different brands you can get for your face and makeup and all that other stuff that you can sell. But it's really good to find out what you're good at. What is your passion? What did God put inside of you that is meant to bless other people? And we help you find that at the inside of the academy. Moms can get stuck, and they lose their momentum, and they feel like they're just rolling, and they're just, I call it mom-mentum. And they lose it, and they're stuck.
They lose their identity too a lot of times, because everybody is take from you. You have nothing left to give, and you feel like, I'm still empty inside. I had a calling that God gave me before I got married with kids. What is it, and how can I jump back on it or start doing it? You got to do the academy. I'm not kidding you, because we even did, there was 5 of us in a group. It was what do we call it? It was
the edit room.
The edit room.
And it was a mastermind
group.
Yes, and we get in a group, and everybody helps everybody, and then I am coaching them through it and all of that. So I have something easy for you to get started with. It's called What's Your Momentum Killer? Very simple. You're going to go through and we're going to find out what area of your life is really got you stuck. And then I'll give you a really quick little answer, and then it will lead you on to more things if you want to learn it. But it's free and just to get you started, because there's no reason, sweetie, for you to be stuck. Little mama, being a mom is really important, but you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your marriage. You can do it. You just need a little bit of help from moms just like us.
Absolutely. So once again, tell everybody listening in, watching this, where can they get your Moms Like Us Academy and jump on for your new show that's coming out in July?
That's right. It'll be in momslikeus.org, or you can look on Mona Corwin. And the YouTube show is Moms Like Us Do Things Like This.
It's a
you
pleasure.
Can find me on Instagram too.
Instagram.
You can see me and my man kissing.
Yeah. Oh, great. Google search Mona Corwin. You'll find her all over the place. Check out the show notes surrounding this video for Mona Corwin. All of our info will be surrounding this show. We have one sponsor slot left for us for the Counter Culture Mom Show. And if you have any guest ideas, either one, or topic ideas, email us at info@counterculturemom.com. Check out our Instagram, Counter Culture Mom. Definitely download our app where you'll find Mona Corwin, all her goods, the Counter Culture Mom app. Click on premium so you get all the dirt. You will want to get premium, trust me. And also check out our website, counterculturemom.com. We have a summer survival kit, a COVID special. Love it. Yeah, so people don't go nuts. But Mona Corwin, Mona, it's been a pleasure having you on today.
Oh, I just love you.
They have
so
to take. Thank you. Well, I'm doing a lot of this today because you told me not to give up and you helped me balance being a mom. First of all, loving the Lord first, then my husband, then my kids, and then ministry.
You're doing great. I'm really proud of you. And if your husband calls me, he better not be calling me. Just kidding.
Hey, it's all good. Thank you so much for tuning in. Counter Culture Mom Show. I'm your host, Tina Griffin. Until next time, share this show and let's rewrite Hollywood script for our kids. No more feminism.
Trump sues big tech, Neiman Marcus gets looted, and Joe Biden shows up at your door with a vaccination needle. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Wass.
You're listening to The Loaded Mic.
4th of July weekend always brings a lot of activity in Democrat-run cities. So this 4th of July weekend, Lori Lightfoot's Chicago was particularly festive. I know what you're thinking. Fireworks displays, cookouts, block parties, people dancing in the streets and celebrating Independence Day. Well, if that's what you're thinking, you're wrong. 4th of July weekend in Chicago was extremely active because people were killing each other. This 4th of July weekend, 2021, 18 people were murdered, 100 people were shot. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could that be? With all the gun restrictions in Chicago, that's impossible. Well, there are a lot of gun restrictions in Chicago. There's a background check system. They have a so-called assault weapons ban. There's an extended waiting period to purchase a firearm. And they even have red flag laws where people or where police authorities can go to your house and confiscate your guns without due process or just cause. The only way they can confiscate your guns from your home is if they know where guns are. And in other words, the only guns they know of are the good people who choose to purchase their firearms legally and are forced to register them with the government. So how do all these murders happen? Well, I think it's pretty clear. The bad guys, the gang members, and those who don't value life also pay no attention to the gun laws in Chicago. So what does Lori Lightfoot choose to do as a solution to these maniacs who don't follow gun laws and kill people? Well, more gun restrictions, of course, because we see how well that works. The truth is, gun restrictions do not work to stop killers. If a killer is willing to take a life in cold blood, do you really think they will obey the law and get a background check, for instance, before acquiring a firearm? Well, the answer is no. And Lori Lightfoot knows this. So we have to ask ourselves, what are Democrats doing to actually stop human violence? The answer is nothing, but they do use the human violence that they perpetuate to push for more gun regulations on good people. They make good people vulnerable and do nothing to stop the bad guys. So the real question is, why? How is it that they can see the violence in their own cities and see that gun restrictions do nothing to stop violence? As a matter of fact, the gun restrictions enhance the violence because good people are rendered unarmed and helpless. And how is it that they can continue to do nothing to solve the problem of human violence? That's what we're going to talk about today on the Loaded Mic. And I'm here with John Chiara.
Hey, Dan.
And so I wanted to see what your thoughts are on Lori Lightfoot and her idea that more gun restrictions are going to solve the problem of Chicago murders. And I mean, because the thing is, look, here's the thing. As Joe Biden would say, here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
When you take guns away from good people, and not necessarily take them away, but if you make them hard to get, the people in these cities like Chicago are not going to be able to defend themselves. And 100 shootings in Chicago over 4th of July weekend.
Right.
What is this, Afghanistan?
Maybe they should hand out fireworks. You probably can't buy fireworks in Chicago, I'm assuming, right? Probably not.
Probably not.
Maybe they should
shoot each other with bottle rockets? It would be safer. I guess maybe just put an eye out.
Sparklers.
I'm going to get you with my sparkler. So, but, you know, it just goes back to that typical anti-gun ideology. I honestly think from watching, you can't listen to what they say because they'll say one thing but do another thing. But from watching their behavior, typically Democrat governors in these cities like Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., Newark, New Jersey, you name it, they say that they want to stop violence, but they do nothing to stop. Now, you think after all this length of time that they would have figured out, well, geez, these gun restrictions aren't working to stop the bad guys because the bad guys are paying no attention to it.
Exactly.
And we're making good people unable to defend themselves. So I always look at it like, initially I would thought, well, they haven't figured it out yet. They're still working on it. But this has been going on for decades, and they're not stupid people. There's an agenda here. My thought is that they like the high numbers, the high murder rates, because it gives them more fuel to push for more gun restrictions. If they can keep the blame on the guns,
right,
they can use every single death that they cause to push for more gun restrictions. And it's just a cycle. They see it happening.
Well, that happens in all parts of politics for so many on the left. It's like they don't really want to fix anything because the problem is what they need. Like Black Lives Matter. They pretty much admit that we don't want to solve the problem. We need this as an issue. We need this issue to stay alive because that's what gives us
validity.
It gives us a platform to talk to people that people have accepted as being important.
Yeah, so think about that. What if it was impossible to fool the people that there's this so-called systemic racism anymore? Mm-hmm. What if people just, every time they heard it, they laughed at it because they knew it was ridiculous? And people, black people, white people, just got together and said, you know what, screw this. We're not going to pay attention to the division. We're not going to let it divide us. And what if all of a sudden Democrats didn't have that issue?
Right.
Then what?
They would have nothing.
They would have nothing.
Well, see, part of the one theory on how to work against these things is to take the side of these people and play it out to the most extreme outcome. Like, say, talking about critical race theory or something. Okay, I love critical race theory. We should have more of it. Let's teach our kids critical race theory. And more importantly, if we want that to be complete, let's take all the information that we're teaching the kids and give all that information to parents. Then everybody will know all about critical race theory.
No, but they don't do that.
But they won't do that because that would short circuit the whole control issue that we're talking about. They need that for their power because they need to have that stuff over there that we can never quite get to, that we have to keep as the boogeyman. You know, it's got to be. We have to deal with this stuff because it's very important. Gun violence, racism, white supremacy.
And once the parents know, we see what's happening across the country. Parents are going to their school board meetings, and they're pissed.
Thank God. That's what they should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Speak up.
Yeah.
Speak up, everybody.
Yeah, that woman, Tatiana, I forget what state she was in. She Jersey? I don't know. I forget where she was, but she really laid into the school board. And it's true. I mean, more parents are doing that now, and more groups of parents are getting together to go up against their school board. I don't understand these people on these school boards, where do they get the arrogance to think that they can talk down to the parents and teach those people's kids whatever they want? The arrogance has just become so over the top. I don't understand. Do they not recognize that it's not their place?
Well, maybe they haven't gotten enough pushback, which is why what we're talking about is important. Because if you have enough parents in your school district that are expecting the school to just do everything for the kids because they can't or they won't or they don't know how, and they're just accepting whatever the school says is true.
Yeah.
You know, they're not looking into it. They're not paying attention to what the kids are being taught. And if the school decides not to let the parents see what the kids are being taught, it's kind of a conspiracy in a way, you know. It's like, let's brainwash all these little kids and not let their parents know what's going on.
What kind of person has to have pushback to do the right thing? What?
I don't know.
And how do these people? I mean, you know what's good and bad, what helps the kids and what doesn't. You know, you have to be some kind of high-level moron to believe that dividing people again, we already went through this decades ago, dividing people again by skin color is going to somehow be a good thing. You really have to be stupid. I can't think of another word. You really have to be either stupid or understand exactly what you're doing and understand that you're doing it for a higher political agenda.
Right. And I think some people understand that. And I think maybe enough people are not speaking up so that just permeates the whole system until we get to where we are now, where some parents are finally saying, well, this is not right. I'm gonna push back. But I think, parents have things going on in their world. I mean, I assume that many parents don't put a high priority on. We're going to pay really close attention to what our kids are doing in school. I want to know exactly what they're learning every day. Bring all your work home. Let me see what you're doing. I'm assuming a lot of parents aren't in a position to do that.
Well, and for so long, you didn't have to.
Right. Or so we thought anyway.
Right.
But for the last 30, 40 years, that's been seeping down from the universities and all this postmodernism stuff that people just assume is the right way to go. And now we're finding out that, well, again, and like you said, I mean, I hate to say people are stupid, but most people don't have any idea how to analyze any kind of data. This isn't working. Okay, what do? Double down, do more of it. Well, this isn't working now. What do? Double down, do. And the gun restrictions are a perfect example of that. If all the gun laws that we've put into place for the last 50 years worked, why are we still complaining about stuff? Or are the situations bad enough where we should be complaining about it? Or are there other ways to go about it so we can fix these things? Because I don't know about you, but I would love to see a problem or two fixed. Wouldn't that be great? We could like fix immigration and we could fix, all these shootings and stuff. That would be great.
Well, we
but
could.
I don't see. I think we can too, but not by doing what we're doing.
And it's so frustrating because what we call, you and I are sitting here talking about this stuff, what we call a fix is not a fix to the political left. It's a roadblock to them because their agenda is different. So in other words, like, okay, so for gun restrictions, we talk about gun restrictions. So what you and I say, okay, we see all this violence, in New York, let's say, for instance, and I can get to this Cuomo deal, but let's say Albany, New York, we see all this violence. And we see a portion of it where guns are being used to commit it.
Right.
So rather than look at the actual cause of why people are doing this, we talked about this on the show yesterday, and we can get back into some of that stuff, or not yesterday, last week. What's the cause? And we talked about, gang violence. We talked about the welfare system and all this stuff.
Right.
We could fix the problem. If the problem is people killing each other, human violence, we can solve that problem, or we can at least fix it and make it better.
Right.
To us, that's the problem.
Because we define that as the problem.
We define that as the problem. But to them, that's not the problem. The real problem is too many American citizens have guns, and that affects their political positioning.
Right.
It affects their political leverage. So what we see. Go ahead, comment on that because that's.
I know where you're going. I often ask when I hear all these. Oh, there's been 4 shootings in Albany last week. Really? Were they legal guns? Legal gun owners? Who shot these people? Let's see the names. Come on, give us the serial numbers of those guns. Let's see who owns that baby.
Well, and that's another thing. There's a local city here, and I won't say what city, in New York. Just because I'm going to do something about this. I'm working on this with.
Oh.
So I don't want to say anything, but there was a local city here in New York who had just, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but they just declared that they're solving this so-called gun violence. And and the proof is that they found a ghost gun. So I'm going to be in the near future here. I'm going to be working on ghost guns and the narrative around ghost guns and how there's no such thing as ghost guns. But they use this term, ghost gun. They created the term because.
And what does that mean?
Well, they're calling guns that are untraceable. They don't have a serial number. Maybe they're homemade. Maybe they're
so illegal guns.
Yeah,
technically
illegal. So they want people to think, hey, we're doing something, we're helping you, we're stopping this so-called gun violence, and we found a ghost gun. All that is a gun that's not serial numbered. It's not attached to some government registry or list. That's, frankly, the way it should be. The government has no business knowing what guns I have, and knowing the serial numbers, knowing my personal information, knowing where those guns are because they know where I live. The government has no business. In 1791, when the first 10 amendments were ratified.
Back in the day.
There were no serial numbers.
Right.
No government registries. Right. How did we get to the place where cops are now saying, we found a ghost gun, and people are going, yeah, get those ghost guns. It's so ridiculous, and I have so much more to say on this topic, but I won't say it today. I'm working on an article, so I'm really piecing this article.
Sounds like a pretty good rabbit hole there to go down, like what ghosts.
But anyway, I forget what brought me to that. But the problem is they're not solving the problem, the real problem. They're trying to solve their problem.
Well, see, because they think it's a gun problem, they automatically go where there's a lot of guns, right? Which are legal gun owners. But yeah, that's not logical. If those guns aren't causing any problems, then it's obviously not the guns, right?
Right.
Obviously. Statistically, it's not the guns. Impossible to say that.
And let me chunk that down a little bit. You said because they think the problem is guns. And the word think is critical here because some people in some lower governments and cities, maybe in towns and some county boards and things, town boards and things like that, they might think the problem is guns. But the people pushing the agenda at the top, governors and their council and state legislators and federal legislators and Congress people, they understand that the problem is not really guns.
Right.
So that word think, because they think the problem is guns, it only applies to half. And this is where the conversation gets really complicated because it applies to half of them. Yes, half of them might think that guns are the problem, but the other half know that guns are not the problem. They understand.
The people that understand numbers know that it's not. That's not the problem.
And understand the policy that they're putting forth because they can see their policy. They can see how taking the cops out of, let's say, taking the cops out of a city or defunding the cops or telling the cops to stand down. They see the immediate direct result of that. Right?
Not complicated.
Crime doesn't go down when you remove cops. Crime goes up when you remove cops.
Those criminals, I'll tell you.
So when you say they think the problem is guns, like I said, I just want to be clear that is only a portion of people, stupid people, who think that the problem is guns.
Right.
The smarter people who have a higher political agenda to achieve, they know that the problem is not guns. Okay, there's my point.
And they know that half the people think that it is, so they just play on
they keep
that.
going. Exactly, yes.
Power, right? It's just, it feeds on itself. It's pretty transparent.
Exactly, good point. They know that a lot of people, they know that
because they keep saying it, And I mean, how many times, I've seen the term gun violence probably 15 times in the last week on different newscasts. And I'm like, why do they keep using that word?
Because it works.
Why do they keep using that terms? Like assault rifle. Why do they keep using those terms?
Well, now you're going to start seeing a lot more ghost gun. Ghost gun is going to be the new term.
Okay.
Because, and this is the stuff I'm going to talk about in the article, and I don't want to really talk about this, but I have to now because you got me going on it. But the term ghost gun is going to be used to represent guns that are not registered. Okay. So because the ultimate goal is to get all guns registered through universal background checks. So the universal background, so they say, well, we'll see, we found one, but it will be much easier for us if guns were registered. So let's make sure that we pass whatever laws necessary to get all the guns registered. And the way we can do that is through universal background checks.
Where do they think those guns come from?
Yay, go Democrats. Yes, we want more universal background checks. So that's the game. So then, okay, so we talk about universal background checks equals a gun registry because ultimately they're going to have the access through the background check system to know where all the guns are. Bring in the red flag laws, and now you've got the tool to confiscate guns with the red flag law, and you've got the means to do it through the universal background check registry. The culprit here is these ghost guns. So you're going to hear a lot more. My point is you're going to hear a lot more about ghost guns.
Well, it's pretty convenient, though. It's another one of those boogeyman things that we can never really figure out what's going on or how to fix it. But
my God,
this is really important. Let's put it on the news every night. Ghost guns. I'll be watching for it.
I can't believe it. Oh my God, where are these ghost guns? It's so spooky. I'm so scared of these ghosts. Am I going to get possessed by these ghost guns? Are they going to haunt me, these ghost guns?
They're going to cause you to shoot somebody.
God,
you're going to find a ghost gun and, must mean I'm supposed to shoot someone now. I got a gun.
Wait a minute. There's no serial number on this gun. Oh, it must be a ghost gun.
I can get away with it because I want to shoot somebody.
It's spookier than all other guns. Right. It's spookier than all other guns. It's a ghost gun. It's just
juvenile.
so, and people.
It's just ridiculous. It's like a fairy tale. It's just crazy. That's crazy.
The people who buy it are very stupid.
Someone
people.
Today I saw, and again, these generalizations get passed down until they become part of the normal lexicon. Well, we're talking about all these gun owners who figure they can't survive if they don't have a gun. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What, obviously,
Well, there's an implication
you have
there.
a gun to be prepared in case something happens. So if something happens and you don't have a gun, you may not survive. So it seems like it's a pretty logical way to go, thinking if you have the gun, you might be able to protect yourself and keep yourself from getting killed.
But that statement right there is typical, and they've been using that for a long time. It's to imply that gun owners are irrational,
But
fearful.
again, statistically, there's no evidence
Doesn't
for that.
matter. None of that crap matters.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I give up. Poltergeist gun.
The poltergeist gun.
We're back.
Oh, the red rum guns.
Oh gosh.
So the point on that is it doesn't matter. People will buy the narrative. They'll buy the notion.
Right, but we know that. Okay, so again, what in my mind what always comes up is like, how do you combat something that is that convoluted and that deep rooted in our understanding of how things are? People believe all kinds of things, and I don't know how you talk them out of it.
Well, and that's mostly the stuff that I talk about with like the Good Gun Bad Guy book series, which, by the way, people can get on Amazon or goodgunbadguy.net or goodgunbadguy.com. And the thing that you have to recognize is that the people who believe the anti-gun nonsense are stupid people. They need little bits of information, little chunks of visual things that they can understand. So what I try to do is help gun owners understand that if we want to change their minds, being fully indoctrinated into this anti-gun messaging, we have to do it in a way that appeals to them. And a lot of times it's simple chunks, it's simple words. There's no such thing as gun violence, only human violence. And it at least will help them think. Ghost guns don't exist. Help them understand why they're using these terms. Ghost guns, like I said, chunk it down. Ghost guns are used as a tool to scare people into more gun background checks, which ultimately lead to registration.
So do we think that all the like we know that community guns exist, right? So these are probably ghost guns fit in that category, right? Like if I found a gun hidden behind a garbage pail someplace or up in a tree somewhere, I would assume that would be called a ghost gun.
I think what they're talking about, and I think the difference is most, any guns that are manufactured by a major manufacturer, Smith & Wesson, any SIG, any of these Glock, any of these companies will have a serial number on the gun. Right. So that's not a ghost gun. You may have a gun with a serial number that is stolen or illegal. That's not necessarily a ghost gun. I think what they're talking about with ghost guns is no serial number. So in other words, either homemade guns or serial numbers grinded off.
I'm assuming there's a whole industry, right, of making these guns that can't be traced.
There should be.
Well, there has to be, right? I mean, people are making these guns. Obviously.
We should be able to, and this is the craziest thing to say. What I'm about to say, people will think you're nuts.
You're nuts.
We should be able to make our own guns by ourselves. Nobody knows, and the government has nothing to say about it. That's the way it's always been. Guns should not be regulated and registered by the government, by which we have the Second Amendment against. The Second Amendment is to limit the government so we, the people, can have whatever means necessary should we need to over leverage the government.
That's the right.
So giving the idea that government needs to know about these guns, it goes against the entire premise of the Second Amendment. And this is the crazy. But you say this stuff now in 2021 and people think you're crazy.
Right. What are you going to overthrow the government?
Yeah.
No, we don't want to overthrow the government.
Not if
if somebody knocks on my door.
Right. Exactly.
Or doesn't knock on my door, breaks through my door.
We've gotten to a place in our culture where people either forget about why we have the Second Amendment or think that we've somehow evolved to a place where we can trust our government.
That's the problem.
Okay.
That's a huge problem. And that filters through everything, right? If you have a whole half of the population that figures, well, we'll just let the government they'll take care of this, and then I won't have to worry about it. I think part of it is laziness, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't want to worry about the personal responsibility and accountability aspect of it. So they look at it that way. But we've trained people for the last 50 years to look at things like that and say, okay, government's going to take care of things. But if you dig down a couple levels on any of this stuff, you realize that they don't have our best interest at heart.
No.
Hi, we're from the government, we're here to help. It used to be a warning thing. That was a red flag, right? No, you're not helping me. Leave me alone.
Well, look at what Joe Biden said with the F-15s and the nukes and stuff. I mean,
and that has generated a lot of arguments in the last week. Well, what are you going to do? Overthrow the government? I says, you believe the guy with the hat on going in the Capitol on January 6th, they were going to overthrow the Constitution?
They didn't even have guns.
What are you talking about? Yeah. You're making your own argument sound ridiculous.
Well, it all does. And the thing is, they can continue to say whatever they want to say, and they just switch positions or they alter their narrative whenever they need to fit the narrative du jour. Right. And so they'll always. The
problem is the media doesn't ever go back and say, well, we were wrong about this. Everybody pay attention.
Right.
We were wrong about this. Right. Never, ever happened.
Because it's not the media, the left-wing media, which is the majority of the media, doesn't care about actually progressing as a country. No. And endorsing and supporting our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and getting back to and I use the word progressing very carefully because it instantly gets attached to the left wing. But progressing maybe financially or with manufacturing, with jobs, and progressing and growing, our country growing, I should say. They don't care so much about that and sticking to the Constitution, Bill of Rights as they do supporting the argument or the agenda of the Democrats. Frankly, it's Democrats.
Right. Generating problems endlessly so that they have power over the people that we understand they're going to believe whatever the government says. You only need half the people to do that, and then you're good to go, right? And you import more people every year, and sooner or later you're going to have enough of a majority where nothing good is ever going to happen.
And I think we got a couple more minutes here in this segment. I just want to talk briefly, since we're on the topic of guns. New York Governor Cuomo announces executive order declaring gun violence disaster emergency. This is so stupid, and people believe it. And this is from Daily Caller, Democratic New York Governor Andrew Cuomo issued an executive order on gun violence Tuesday, declaring it a disaster emergency. Gun violence is a public health crisis, and we must treat it like one, Cuomo wrote on Twitter. This declaration, I'll do the Cuomo voice. This declaration allows us to give the crisis full attention and resources it deserves, he quotes. He said, declaration will allow us to give. New York City was enjoying its lowest crime rate in 6 decades before seeing a huge spike last summer, according to the New York Times. The violent crime wave has continued, with shootings up 38% in the first 6 months of 2021 compared to the same time last year. The spike coincides with defunding the police movement's rise in American politics. So the crime is going up because of no police, right? And Cuomo and de Blasio defunding New York police. But yet this is a gun violence epidemic. So again, it's just more stupid crap from stupid people.
It's stupid crap because so often these policies from the left, as I've said before, ignore human motivation. They think that criminals aren't paying attention that, there's less police. I'm just going to stay home and watch TV tonight. It's just so backwards.
Well, he went on to say, and I know we got to wrap it up here, but he went on to say, today I announced a strategy to combat gun violence in both the short and long term using public health approach. And he said something to the effect of, we're going to treat this like we treated the COVID situation. Oh, so lock up your parents and grandparents in the nursing home, because here comes Cuomo again. Now he's going to do something the same approach with guns. So
he's nuts.
He is nuts, and not only that, he's a jerk. And I have other words other names I could call him, but I'll use jerk because jerk is acceptable. He's a real jerk, and you know what other word I'm trying to say, but and I think that's his whole persona. He wants to treat people with an iron fist, I guess they say.
He's in charge.
Well, he's really not, but he's found a way to have leverage over the people, right? And he might be in charge to a certain extent, but I think Cuomo would make a really good communist dictator. I agree. Anyway, okay, so we got to take a break. Danny's wrapping us up. Be right back.
I'm Danny Watts Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
By now you've heard me talk about MyPillow and how it literally changed my life. They won't go flat. You can wash and dry them as many times as you want, and they maintain their shape. They're made in the USA, and for a limited time, Mike is offering his premium MyPillows for his lowest price ever. You can get a queen-size premium MyPillow for just $29.98, regularly $69.98. It's a $40 savings, and kings are only $5 more. So go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use the promo code RAM, like RAM. You'll also get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, MyPillow towel sets. You can also call 800-867-0416. That's 800-867-0416. But don't forget to use that promo code RAM.
The Second Amendment is a priority at the Loaded Mic. If we don't defend the right to keep and bear arms, there are people who are happy to violate it. The strategies and tactics of the anti-gun crowd and politicians are sinister. We need to understand those tactics. I wrote the Good Gun, Bad Guy book series as the rule book to their evil game, so we can understand their strategies and motives to defeat them. Understand the mindset of the anti-gunner in Book 1. Learn the media strategies behind the gun grab in Book 2. And understand the politics behind their mission in Book 3. Go to goodgunbadguy.com.
So we're back. Thanks for that. You're welcome. There's a few things I want to talk about in this segment. So we're going to talk about Trump.
Oh, good.
Suing big tech, right? And we're going to talk about Biden and his door-to-door vaccines.
That's
vaccine
go
checks,
well.
right? Yeah, that's going to go over like a fart in church or a lead balloon, or what are some of the other things? Anyway.
Yeah.
Not good.
We get the drift. See where you're going with that.
So, and I also want to talk about the what is it called?
Neiman
Marcus break-in, the looting in San Francisco. First, let's talk about Trump, because I saw the press conference. It was pretty cool. And he said he's going to sue Twitter, Facebook, Google, and their top executives, their CEOs, their founders.
Okay.
I don't know if the guy from Google is the founder, but whatever. So the lawsuit is basically saying you can't restrict First Amendment rights of people if people are on the platform. Because the thing is, these platforms have now become public square.
That's the argument.
Right. And it's like it's almost at this point, in a way, telling certain people they can't get on the bus, or telling certain people they can't take the train.
Certain people they can't advertise in a newspaper.
Right, exactly. So this is going to be. So anyway, let's watch that clip. Danny, you got a clip of that? And
today,
we'll see
in conjunction with the America First Policy Institute, I'm filing as the lead class representative a major class action lawsuit against the big tech giants, including Facebook, Google, and Twitter, as well as their CEOs, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, and Jack Dorsey. Three real nice guys.
Sundar Pichai. Trump's funny.
This is rampant stuff, though. People don't understand it before we get into the particulars of this, because I know Mike Cernovich just had an article removed from Google. Like, if you take the title of his article and search in Google, it will not come
Just
up.
nothing.
If you go to DuckDuck or wherever the other search engines and put it in, it comes right up.
There's DuckDuckGo, there's Bing,
right.
there's
So
what are some
Google
other-
has banned his article. So you can search for something that exists, and Google will not show it to you. So that's to the point it's gotten, though, right? As like
Yeah.
you said, is that public square or what is that?
Yeah. Well, it's like you had a great example, telling people they can't advertise in the newspaper. Telling people they can't, nope, sorry, you can't take this bus. What? Are you kidding me?
Well, the argument, though, you get from other people is like, well, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want. I go, but it's access. It's not just the fact that it's a private company. If I build my whole business by advertising in a local newspaper or on a local radio station for the last 10 years, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, you can't advertise with us anymore. Right. And then the people that are advocating for it say, well, just go start your own radio station, your own newspaper.
Right.
Okay, well, it's access. It's not just, whether I'm baking you a cake or not.
That's right.
I can go get a cake someplace else. I can't go get another, local newspaper has the circulation.
It is access. You're right, because it gives people, now people rely on that so they can have access to other people, to businesses, to other things. That's like if you wanted to purchase something on Amazon, but you weren't allowed to. I mean, what the hell is this?
Ghost guns.
The ghost guns. But how you can't, a private business could do that. A private business can say, no, we're not going to serve you for whatever reason, cake, whatever. But at this point, it's not a private business. They've crossed over into another completely different realm of public. I don't want to say public domain, but public service, I guess, right? Isn't it?
It's global access. Billions of people access these networks, and then you say, "Oh, you're the president of the United States. You're saying stuff we don't like." Nobody's going to see what you say.
That is unbelievable. And that alone is going to go down in history. People are going to look back on that and look at it as an amazing thing that happened. How can a private company shut the president down?
Crazy.
So it just shows their power. It also shows their arrogance and their willingness to take a political side.
Right, and
clearly,
and dictate what's true to all the half of the people that we admitted believe whatever these people say.
Right,
it's a complete power trip, and to not see that just shows us how deeply entrenched a lot of these people are in this stuff. Like, don't you think it's unusual that the president of the United States has been banned from all these? Well, he's a terrible person. I don't care if he's freaking Hitler. Right. Like, what the heck is going on here?
Well, they let Islamic terror groups on there.
Well, plus, and the congresswoman there and stuff, all that stuff. People say all kinds of crazy stuff, and nothing ever happens to them.
Right.
And the president says stuff that at least half of us would like to hear, and then these companies just decide, nope, you're out of here. So.
And we have to do this, and Trump has to do this because not only to protect the free speech of conservatives right now, but also to protect the free speech and accessibility, like you said, to everyone, right, including Democrats, because Democrats, the way this tribal fighting has become is like nobody cares about the future. They just care about winning in the moment.
Dude, this is the whole right.
And this is going to affect Democrats later on down the road. Democrat voters, they think that they're so smart in winning this fight against conservatives. And in some respects they are because of media and stuff. But they're so stupid to believe that, because it's going to happen to them if this continues. Thankfully, they should be thanking us, conservatives, because we're going to stop it.
Right.
Hopefully, we're going to stop it.
They can't run timelines. They say, first they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't say anything. That's exactly what this is. It's like, this is again, it's not about the content of, and I say so often to people, just because you don't like a person back up and look at the process that's going on here. If you think something bad happening to that person is a good thing for society at large, then you're not looking at the big picture, because it could just as well be you. As soon as something else happens and somebody's opinion changes, what you think is important could be thrown out the same as this stuff is being thrown out. It's not good for anybody.
And it most likely will be them. The thing is, we're coming out and we're going to stop it. Probably because, and being the victims of it is probably part of the catalyst, that the reason why we're doing it. But it's going to help everybody, I think.
Long term,
it's going to help.
Care about freedom. It's going to help everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing. Do they really care?
I don't.
Does the average Democrat voter? We know some Democrat voters, unfortunately, and do you know any? I'm sure maybe.
Yeah.
And
you know more than I do.
Actually, I have actually some people who I can tolerate who vote Democrat. I can't tolerate their voting habits, but I can somewhat tolerate them in a public, person on a personal level. But do they realize what's really happening, or do they just need to win? And is their hatred for Trump so great that they will do anything and sacrifice their own freedom, their own rights, just to get one over on Trump? Or these conservatives that they now believe are evil incarnate?
Yeah, a horrible guy like Ron DeSantis and stuff. He's a horrible guy, right? He's terrible. But that it is derangement syndrome, and if we could get some of these people to take one step back and take out the hatred for Trump and just look at the process of what's happening, they would say, I wouldn't want that happening to me. But they're not looking at it that way. They're just looking at, we got to do this because I don't like that person. I don't like that thing. They're very short-sighted.
Well, just some of the stuff on social media. I mean, I see some of the discussions you get in on social media with some of these lunatics, and personally, I don't know how you even tolerate them, but how do they not recognize this stuff? How does your typical Biden supporter not understand what's actually happening here?
Well, I think a part of the reason is because, again, like we said before, they create these boogeyman scenarios where most of these people are never directly affected by any of this stuff. Like, how many Democrat state workers are affected by ghost guns? None. Right? So they're just saying, I'm going to take a moral stand on this. And that's what it all comes down to, is they've been convinced that their stand is morally superior. So when you're morally superior, you can make all kinds of concessions in all kinds of areas, and it makes it really easy to judge other people. Let's make that person the bad person. Let's make that gun the bad thing. Let's make racism the thing we have to fight against and have on the front burner all the time. It's just... It's a really, really shallow way of looking at anything, because it's all, like you said, it's all in the moment, static stuff. It's not dynamic. It doesn't play into the future, and it ignores, again, human motivation in a lot of these situations. They don't know why people are doing things, so they look to blame things. Let's blame the gun. Well, these people have problems over here. Okay, well, but they're using a gun, so we'll blame the gun.
Well, you made a good point when
I saw a chicken scratch there.
I make notes so I don't forget stuff. The moral superiority. They do believe that they're morally superior because that's what they're taught. They're taught to believe that the decisions they make and the causes they support are for the greater good of humanity. And so they actually believe it. So part of the problem is that their fight and their argument is so fierce because they actually believe that what they're doing is morally.
Well, and what they've been convinced of, and this is why, and again, this is another downside of the going out of fashion of religion in a lot of ways, is that nobody's taught humility. What the media teaches you is that your position is morally superior, and it's your job to judge other people. That's the thing. So those people are bad people. Once you convince yourself that those people are bad people, you're off and running, right? Like it's often said, Republicans think that the right thinks people on the left are people with bad ideas. The people on the left think the people on the right are bad people with ideas.
Yeah, good point.
The whole moral thing. Once you inject that moral thing in, then you're self-righteous. Then all the things that the Bible teaches against, there's no humility involved in that. Same with another conversation I was having earlier about people telling other people what they should do. Like, just Buying your own business is a good thing, too.
And another aside, or in addition to the way Democrats think they're morally superior, they also believe that they're intellectually superior. This is why they tout their college education, and they always want to talk from a place of authority.
Right, except that when it comes to things like guns, they just ignore the statistics, right? When it comes to all kinds of things, they just ignore the numbers and say, it has to be this because I know I'm morally superior and I'm smarter than you and I'm going to tell you what to do.
But the thing they don't understand is that you can train anybody to memorize stuff. You can go to college. You can take 20 years of college education. It doesn't make you any smarter. You're better at memorizing stuff. You maybe have collected some data. Whether or not that data is true or not is another story. But there's so many times I see these people who think that they're intellectually superior really are very stupid and have no common sense. They don't understand how this stuff applies in the real world and how we use our intelligence and how we use our education to communicate with people, to interact with other people, to live in a society. They don't get that part. That part is like God, but they think that they can speak down to you from a intellectually superior place.
Well, they're not taught wisdom.
Wisdom, that's a good point.
Stuff.
They learn stuff.
And then they learn that that's okay to judge other people. So once you know a lot of stuff and you've been taught that it's okay to judge people, you're off and running, baby. Let's go.
So take the intellectually superior and the morally superior notions that a lot of these people have, and you've created a political Frankenstein monster.
And the worst part about it is that when that comes right to the front line of conversations, say on social media, is that what happens is that perspective will never let them argue anything important because they will judge the person right off the bat. This is just cognitive dissonance run amok. Yeah. Well, you don't believe what I believe, therefore you're a bad person. Okay, where do you go with that? How do I fight back against that? I got to start defending myself? You can't play that game, right? You can't go onto their playing field and start fighting face to face because we're trying to talk about ideas here.
Yeah, and their influencers understand that. That's exactly what
big time.
Anyway, okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about, we got another clip that I want you to see. Okay. Joe Biden, let me just intro it. Joe Biden has decided, well, not Joe Biden, I don't think he's decided anything, but the Democrats, his handlers have decided that not enough people are taking this vaccine, the so-called vaccine. Okay. They've already tried bribing people, right? Yep. They've already tried coercing them in, I don't know, all these different ways, right? Giving them lottery tickets and then...
Were they giving them lottery tickets? Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it was Ohio did it with a $1 million...
Oh, they enter them in the lottery, automatically when you get the vaccine.
Cuomo here in New York did it with a $3 or $5 million lottery. So they're trying every way they possibly can. And although the people are getting their vaccine, there's still a very few people who haven't got the vaccine. It's not a few. Just so people know, it's not a few. There's a lot of people who've decided not to get this vaccine.
And it's at the point now where they're not going to.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what happened. Well, I just talked to my friend from the Dominican Republic out in the parking lot when I was coming in. He said that because Dominican Republic lives on tourism, right? And they haven't been able to let people in because of the vaccine. So now the president is saying, well, when we reach 70% in these certain areas, we're going to open up tourism. So probably August 1st or whatever. The thing of it is that they're going to have to fake the numbers because if you haven't gotten it by now, you're not going to get it, I'm assuming, right?
Right. And they need the rest of the people, for whatever their reason is. I have a problem believing it's for the public safety of the people, the personal safety of the people. I have a feeling there's other things involved. Maybe it's the money the pharmaceutical companies are making off this thing. Maybe it's the deals they have with our hired representatives. Who knows? But they need, and they're desperate at this point. You can see it in the way they. So Joe Biden now comes out and says, "Well, we're going to take a different approach, and we might even have to come to your house." Yeah, well, you come to my house, and there's going to be a problem. And a lot of people are saying that across the country. You come to my house and there's going to be a problem. So don't do it. Just for the good of everybody, don't come to my house and try to push a vaccine that I've clearly decided not to get, right? So anyway, so here's Joe Biden hinting at the fact that there may be some sort of registry now and going to, because there's got to be a registry, right? If you go into houses and you're obviously going to the houses of people who haven't been vaccinated, right? How do you know where these people live? Is the medical industry?
So they're handing out your personal medical information.
Is the medical? I don't know. It's a question.
Or are they just knocking on doors randomly? That could be a good summer job, though. Hello, excuse me. Have you been vaccinated?
Well, how would they know? Anyway, let's play the clip and then we'll talk about it. Danny, can you play that clip, please?
In today's briefing, we discussed how our administration is going to devote the remainder of the summer to a special focus on 5 ways to make gains in getting those of you who are unvaccinated vaccinated. Because here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
We are continuing to wind down the mass vaccination sites that did so much in the spring to rapidly vaccinate those eager to get their first shot and their second shot, for that matter, if they needed a second. Now we need to go to community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Why?
And oftentimes door to door, literally knocking on doors to get help to the remaining people protected from the virus.
Get help to them. They want to get help to them. These people, they just don't know about this vaccine and its availability. They don't know. They don't understand how serious the Rona is and how they can get help. These people just don't know.
I'm glad I know now. I feel much better.
Oh my God.
So when I hear that knock, I'll know it's going. Well, they'll be ringing my doorbell. They won't be knocking.
Oh my God. Can you believe the arrogance? They want to help. Joe Biden, he used the word help. I want to help you.
It's like Jehovah's Witness knocking on your door. We're here to help you.
We're here to help.
We're from the government.
I just, so back to the whole registry thing. How would they know what doors to go to?
I have no idea. And who's going to do this? Are they paying people to do this?
And are they going to be representatives of the government, or are they going to be actual government employees? How's that going to work?
Where are they coming from? Who's paying for that?
Yeah.
The tax dollars at work.
Yeah, so I'm going to be paying out of my taxes to have someone in my community represent the government and harass me about taking a shot of what's the word I'm looking for?
Untested vaccine. I'll feel safer.
Unapproved is the word I'm looking for. I just don't. I just think they've gone way overboard with this, and it shows you just how desperate they are to get this into everybody's body. Doesn't that make people concerned a little bit? I don't want to be some conspiracy theorist, but they're giving me every reason to say, wait a minute, what the hell are you doing here? This isn't normal. You got a virus with a 99+%
survival rate, right?
Survival recovery.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Now you're coming to door to prevent that little percentage after nobody's even getting anymore. All the numbers have fallen.
Well, plus it doesn't even take into account any bad side effects that there might be from the vaccine, because we don't know anything about that long term. Argue people all the time, long term effects. I go, really? What do you have a time machine? Because I don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now when I have spike proteins in my brain, or your wife has spike proteins in her ovaries, which might cause a problem, might not cause a problem. We have no way of knowing any of that, but that's kind of the point. We have no way of knowing. So don't act like you know and force people to do stuff. It's kind of tyranny, right? I mean, it's really crossing the boundary, I think.
Well, it's just, people don't really think about it, I guess. I mean, maybe they don't want to know. They're like, oh, whatever, I'll do whatever the government says.
They can't, but they don't. All they hear is one line. I mean, if most people aren't looking for other information, all they're hearing is what the government and the media is telling them, which is that you should get the vaccine no matter what, blah, blah, blah. And if I should get the vaccine and that's a good thing, therefore I'm looking out into the world, well, if we make it so that everybody can get the vaccine, that'll be even better, right? Has to be. Well, the government's telling me it's true.
If the vaccine works and all these people who've been vaccinated, they're not going to catch it. So what are they worried about?
I was at an outdoor show the other day talking to this guy who I haven't talked to in quite a while, and he's a Democrat, and we don't really get along politically, right? So I was, every time I see him, I'm nice to him, and I was talking to him about different things. And he says, "So did you get the vaccine?" And I said, "No." He says, "Well, don't stand so close to me then." I go, "Okay." And I thought about it. I wanted to ask him, did you get the vaccine? Because if you did,
what are you worried about?
You have the vaccine. So what are you worried about here?
Well, they're using the number like 20% of people didn't get it. It's much more than that. It's probably over 50% of people.
Because kids, first of all, why did anybody vaccinate their kids?
But so here's my argument: if only a small percentage of these people, like a small amount of people, just still haven't gotten it, we need to help them, right? Well, if it is just a small amount of people, okay, everybody who's got it should be safe, right? If the vaccine works, and then that little group of small people can transfer the virus back and forth to each other amongst themselves. Talk amongst yourselves. And wouldn't that be their choice?
See, that'd be an interesting statistic to look into. Like how many people who aren't vaccinated, who are associating with each other, have actually contracted the coronavirus. I bet the numbers are way low.
I think this virus is long gone.
I think it's
where is it? Who do you know has got it?
Nobody.
And if they do get it, it's like the flu, right? So they're getting better. Are there any deaths anymore? It's so terrible that they are so desperate. That's what makes me question it. It's their desperation to get everybody vaccinated when we never heard of this before.
Right. And instead of saying, wow, we've made a lot of progress on this. This is so good.
Yeah.
This is the projections for the future.
Yeah.
No, we have to knock on doors and make sure everybody has the vaccine.
Tells me there's something else going
on there. I'm suspicious.
I'm very suspicious. I'm surprised that other people are. Well, I can understand why people who have the vaccination are not suspicious. They don't want to know at this point. They've got it in their body, and they don't want to know.
Well, what they said in California, too, didn't Newsom the other day say that CDC says that kids that are vaccinated don't have to wear masks in school, and California says, no, we're going to make them wear masks anyway because we want everybody to be the same. We don't
God.
We don't want kids to feel discriminated against because they have or don't have the vaccination. That just came out yesterday, the day before.
Now it's a discrimination thing. Anyway, I know many people who've had the vaccine, and they hate when I talk about this stuff. But sorry, I'm not buying it at this point. If they're still pushing it with this type of desperation and this type of hype and this type of marketing strategy and propaganda, there's something wrong.
Right.
Something wrong. I don't know what it is. And I don't condemn you for getting the vaccine.
No, but the whole idea of a vaccine is protect a person against something. So, again, I hate to keep saying it over and over again, mind your own business.
Yeah.
If you're protected, shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not the moral warrior out there that's supposed to change the world and make everything better, but this is what the media has instilled in people's minds. Like, I have to be out there fighting for all this. I have to be on the right side. I just saw some TV show today from 20 years ago where people are standing at a vigil with candles in their hand and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's making a big difference there. It's
all right. We're getting close to the end here. I want to make sure I get this last topic in.
Okay, here we go.
This was the Neiman Marcus break-in in San Francisco. So these lunatics go in and they break in Neiman Marcus. Now, I don't know how much these handbags cost. I'm assuming thousands of dollars. This is like really high-end stuff. And you got these freaking looters. What are they going to do with this stuff?
Presents for their girlfriends, I guess. I don't even know were the looters, were they male, female, or a mixture?
I guess we're going to find out. We have a clip. Let's see who they are. Go ahead, Danny.
The crime was captured on cell phone video around 5:45 yesterday afternoon. 9 people can be seen running out of the Neiman Marcus store in San Francisco's Union Square, carrying expensive handbags and getting away. Shoppers say it is upsetting and makes them feel unsafe.
Oh, my God.
I feel unsafe.
So
good for property values and stuff, right? People stealing stuff next door, breaking windows. Good deal.
Yeah. So what would happen is, and I think they said, didn't they say that one store across the street? What was that?
It was boarded up with a for lease sign in it, right?
Right. So people are moving out of San Francisco. Now, this is Nancy Pelosi's district, as far as I understand. And so let's follow the chain reaction of what happens here. Neiman Marcus,
big high-end store.
People who can afford this stuff should be able to buy it. They enjoy it. Maybe the quality is superior to all other handbags. I don't know. I've never,
right.
Not that I have handbags, but I don't know what the quality is. Anyway, let's assume they're really high quality and good stuff. And people want to buy this stuff. They should be able to. Okay, so these 9 jackasses loot the place like it's a freaking 7-Eleven, right? It's like,
why were they even in there?
I don't know. Well,
window shopping.
If they're looting handbags, they obviously don't have money to put in the handbags. What the hell are they doing with the handbag? Obviously, they're stealing it so they can either resell it or I don't know.
It's the mysteries of the criminal mind.
Why would you? Anyway, to the Robin Neiman Marcus, the place across the street goes out of business. What happens to Neiman Marcus? They say, okay, we just lost 9 handbags. How much are they a piece? I don't know. What are they? Up to $5,000. They could be probably a piece. So let's say, they could have looted out $50,000 worth of handbags. Who knows? That's a significant loss, right?
On its own.
Right.
Just on its own.
So how much does a company have to tolerate? How much of that do they have to tolerate before they say, screw you, we're getting out of here. You don't have the cops here because you defunded them.
Right.
You're letting these animals run wild and loot businesses. We're out of here. So then what happens to the city?
Everything goes down.
No, those jobs are lost. The business is boarded up. Graffiti, and the dirt bags come in and start taking over the city. It's a terrible shame with such a good potential for.
Right. And that's where leadership comes in, right? I mean, when you got to clean up a city, it's a leader that comes in and cleans the city up, like Giuliani did with New York City. I mean, love him or hate him, whatever, he definitely made a gigantic difference.
He did.
That's what we need in some of these places, is somebody to come in and say, well, hopefully...
Curtis Lua, I think.
Curtis Lua, well, he's not going to win. But the other guy even is at least the next cop, right, in New York City. I mean, at least he hopefully might do something to put some different ideas in people's heads. I don't know. Is Leva going to win? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't followed that close enough. So Danny's wrapping us up, but we will, maybe next week we'll talk about it.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks for watching The Loaded Mic on YouTube, Rumble, Simul TV, and Right America Media. You can also catch the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, whatever your favorite podcast app is, we're there. I'm Dan Wass, and the Second Amendment is not a privilege, it's your right.
It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, a focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
The state wasn't around when we did the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s. It
happened before the election because there are too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoing is going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the lies.
With rules for Thanksgiving, who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out